Hey there, I'm Jim.
And I'm Matt.
I'm Dusty.
From Dad's Doing Nerd Shit.
A podcast on the Fandom Limb Media Network.
We talk about all kinds of nerdy stuff.
From Dungeons and Dragons to the MCU.
From video games to semi-current space news.
And anything else that catches our attention.
New episodes go live every Monday morning on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
We can also be found on Facebook, Instagram, and the Twitter.
So roll the dice and join us as we discuss the things we love and the culture around being a nerd.
For real, C-Rock?
Every movie franchise has its high points, but with those also come the low points. Wanting to explore the long-term negative effects of taking one too many blows to the head, Sylvester Stallone once again hit up his word processor and came up with the script for Rocky V, a scaled-down story and a hopeful return to the series' gritty and scrappy roots. The director of the first film, John G. Avildsen, returned to direct what was meant to be the final movie of the franchise. Joining the cast as Rocky's mentee-turned-opponent, Tommy Gunn, is real-life boxer Tommy Morrison. And this time around, Sly cast his own son, Sage Stallone, to portray Rocky's son, Rocky Jr., whose relationship with his father is explored in this film. Rocky V was a box office disappointment and a critical dud. It brought the series to a screeching halt that lasted for 16 years until another sequel was inevitably produced. But what did we think of this movie? Returning to the show for this episode is friend of the pod, Arbi Derzakharian. Welcome back to the ongoing saga of the Rocky franchise of films. We watched the 1990 Sylvester Stallone street boxing classic, John G. Avildsen's Rocky V. This is a show about franchises, underdog movie franchises. You're listening to License to Watch.
Why in the world was this movie made?
Should we start the show by singing, what's the song at the end that Elton John sings? Did you guys catch that?
It's okay. So I wanted to talk. Wait, hang on a second.
Man.
It's Measure of a Man. What's funny is I watched this movie on HBO, and then as soon as it was done, I was going to sleep. So I decided to put on another movie, and the movie I put on was The King's Man, and the last song of that movie
Is Measure of a
is
Man?
also called Measure of a Man.
No.
Different song, different artist, but it's also called Measure of a Man. So in one night, I watched two movies that had their closing song be Measure of a Man, and both of them sucked.
I heard Kingsman sucked. I knew Kingsman was going to suck.
Yeah, it wasn't actually Elton John though, right? It sounds like an Elton John ripoff.
It was the actual
Wow.
Sir Elton John.
I
That's
couldn't
sad.
believe it too, because I saw it said lyrics by Alan Menken and performed by Elton John. They were
reluctantly performed by Elton John.
Reluctantly.
Yeah, at gunpoint.
Was I the only one who was emotional during those credits and the black and white photos?
Yes.
I cried, but it wasn't really from emotion.
It was pain.
All right, guys, we're here. It's not quite the culmination. It feels like it for me, because to me, Rocky Balboa doesn't seem like a real thing that happened. But we're here, Rocky V. It's the last movie of the initial five. Like, don't you feel like the five are like a series?
It was a 5-movie franchise that then got a addendum added to it, which I totally understand how you feel, but I also think adding Rocky Balboa, well, I guess we should wait until we watch Rocky Balboa, but I feel like that's a better coda to this than this movie is.
Totally, and I think that's why they probably did it too.
Everyone just accepts that is a part of the sequels, the canon sequels, because they want it to be true, not because it makes any fucking sense.
I feel like Rocky Balboa is an apology for this movie.
Yes. I think we'll call this the end of the Adrian saga, if you will.
But
not bad.
I didn't want to get into this too early, but Rocky V has the most problems for the Adrian's coma dream theory. Especially, here's the thing.
Wait, refresh our memories. What is the Adrian's coma dream
for Arbi
theory?
Yes, please.
Yeah, the theory is that in Rocky 2, when Adrian goes into a coma, she actually doesn't wake up. Everything that happens after that is just the dream she has during her coma.
Basically, all the improbable good stuff that happens to them.
Yeah.
Getting rich, he wins the championship, they're happy. It's
I buy that as better reality than any of the movies after 2.
Yeah,
certainly more plausible, yeah.
The movies get increasingly unrealistic from there. However, here's the thing. If this is Adrian's coma dream, how does she know how to dream a Don King allegory? Does she already know about who Don King is?
Well, you're
or
getting.
has she made up Don King?
Like someone in the hospital room is like reading a newspaper and they're like, this damn Don King.
Don King just keeps on saying only in America over and over again. It's like his catchphrase.
Did they get sued? Because that is Don King's catchphrase, right?
It literally is his catchphrase, and they use it directly in this movie. Maybe they thought Don King was more
Look at that
obscure
shot.
than he actually was.
Oh wow! Sylvester Stallone fully nude, taking a shower.
Yes,
Thighs
as we call
of steel.
it, the money shot.
I honestly think the first 8 minutes of this movie are good, and then it's just
because it's
really
all
bad.
Rocky 4.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's all Rocky 4, and then the one thing that I have the biggest problem with these movies is finally acknowledged that he has brain damage. I'm like, there's a huge relief. There's a huge sigh of relief when they actually acknowledge that brain damage is a thing in this world for me.
CTE, early stages.
Yeah.
But you don't have a problem with how quickly the brain damage makes him go from very eloquent in Rocky 4 to dumb.
I do have a problem with that. That's another problem for the Adrian's coma dream theory.
I just want to be a voice of dissent here. The one thing I liked most about this movie is that in the past 2 films, in Rocky 3 and Rocky 4, Rocky's wearing Gucci sweaters, and I think he's wearing makeup in a lot of them. He's definitely not slurring his speech. He's the cool hip guy who's Apollo, we can't do this forever. We got to be smart about this. And I'm talking to my accountant, investing really wisely. And in this one, it's he's back to
worse than ever.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think that's the best version of Rocky, is the one who's kind of wise, even though he sounds like he's mentally handicapped. And we are right back there with this.
Well, hold
Yeah,
up.
but
Before we
this-
say anything
This fails
else,
to actually do that, in my opinion.
before we say anything else, I should say this is License to Watch. This is the Rocky 5 episode. Joining us today is our returning guest, Arbi Derzakharian. Arbi, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me back for another number 5.
We're doing it live from the podcast studio, aka my dingy garage. It's cold outside. It's an unusually cold Los Angeles night. Arbi is wearing a knit cap beanie situation.
This is our first time podcasting in the garage. We cannot project the movie, so we're watching it on an iPad. The lights kept on going out, so we have a shop light that's illuminating the place.
I have a bunch of shit that I've yet to get rid of that's taking up valuable real estate in the garage.
I'm in a chair with wheels, so if you hear this, that's me wheeling around.
Yeah.
There's a diorama of the solar system, a bunch of large tubs.
Yeah,
plastic
Matt,
tubs.
how many years or months ago did you make this diorama of the planets?
You know what? I think
good.
that's actually a mobile, not a diorama.
Oh yeah, that's true. It is a mobile.
It is a
Sorry,
mobile.
that was incorrect.
Yes, it was
Apologies
purchased.
to the listeners.
It was not made. It was probably made in a factory, perhaps by hand by someone. I don't know. But
I don't know. It's an upgrade for me. Last time I was alone in my apartment. I couldn't see you guys.
That's
we weren't even
right.
watching the movie.
that's fucking right, Arbi. This is an upgrade. We're in person. We're next to each other. We could feel the warmth of each other's genitals.
we are in a spoon train right now to keep warm.
Guys, this is great. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're all here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to
Glad
be
I'm
here.
anywhere.
I think it's weird that the spoon train had to be head to foot, but I understand that to get good recording quality audio,
That's
we did
true.
have
You
to
don't
do
want
that.
to. Yeah, you can't have the mics too close together.
Right. We'll pick up each other on the mic.
And I just feel like I'm fine with being the front of the spoon train as long as we get to rotate, because I do want to be in the middle sometimes. So
Yeah, that'll be about midway through this
yeah.
movie.
Every 30 minutes, you're going to hear some shuffling as we rotate the spoon train.
Each montage.
Yeah, what can I say? I like to
the
be the meat
scene
in the
between
sandwich.
the two montages. There's always a scene between montages. We'll do it then.
Yep.
Arbi, you were asked to be a part of this episode in particular because I knew of your affinity for these movies, the Rocky movies in question. Particularly this movie, you said you would do this because you love this movie. Is that right?
I did. Then I started.
Explain yourself, you maniac.
So I saw this movie in the theater. My dad took me when I was 9 or 10. I can't remember. And obviously, those impressions have been corrected by watching it again last night and realizing how, there's racist and sexist depictions in this movie that I cringed a little bit, to be honest with you.
There's a lot to cringe about. I will give you that.
Yes. I can see how being very young and seeing it with your dad, it's very heavy-handed and over the top with the fact that it does have a father-son plot line.
Yes. Do we know when this movie was released? Was it like a Father's Day?
No, I don't remember. But that's a very good point, Colin.
It is a total. All Rocky movies are dad movies for sure.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say it's written for 9-year-olds, which also makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, it's only written for 9-year-olds who are actually 14. That's the trick.
Yeah, how old is his kid? Like, here's the thing. I felt like the kid in Rocky 4 was like at most 7 years old.
No,
at
he was
most.
the actor was 9, the kid was 9.
Okay.
This actor is 14. This kid is still 9. I don't know how long they were in
was
Russia.
he in Russia for
There was
5 years?
I think they just montaged about 5 years of Rocky's life in Russia.
Right. You
But
just
it's the
blame it on a
same kid.
montage.
He just got back. He's still got bruises on his face.
Okay, so I think that I'm going to defend this decision because in the previous Rocky movie, the kid was played by some child actor who was not that good.
Terrible.
Yes, I think that's actually fair. I was trying not to be mean to the child actor, but yes, the kid in Rocky 3 or Rocky 4 is terrible. In this movie, it's played by Sage Stallone, who's Rocky's son, and he is actually, I think, really good.
Stallone's son.
I will go as far to
Stallone's
say
son,
that
yes,
Stallone's
I don't separate them.
Stallone's son, Sage, in this movie is one of the highlight performances
Yes.
of this movie.
I completely agree. R.I.P.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Gone too soon. But I think if you gotta screw with the continuity a little bit and just not explain why the kid aged 5 years in a few months while his parents were in Russia, I say go for it if you get the better actor.
Yeah, and
guess.
hopefully it was natural for father and son to play father and son. And I don't blame that kid from Rocky 4 too much. They gave him the line of, "That's my dad."
Oh, yeah, it's terrible. It was terrible. There was nothing you could do with that, but also he did nothing with it. So
That's true.
But it's also confusing in the plot how old he's supposed to be. Because, like, there's definitely some kind of pubescent angst thing going on with, like, the little girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
And
The earring.
Why did the bullies become his gang? And what is the earring about? What is that earring?
It's called rebellion.
I kind of feel like we could do 2 hours just on the Rocky Jr. subplot of this movie because it's awesome. It is my favorite part of the movie. I think it all makes perfect sense. I love it.
Boring. The scenes when he's by himself, not because of the performance, but like because of the writing, to me, are boring.
No, I think the scenes where he's actually going through some emotional turmoil in this. He's going through jealousy. He's going through angst. He has to move. He goes from being the rich kid who's got everything, like Richie Rich, who's trying to, his parents are smart and they grew up poor, so they're keeping him grounded, but he's got a French teacher with giant tits and he goes to a private school and everything's great, and then he has to move back to his dad's old neighborhood where he's poor and everyone thinks that he's rich and thinks that he's a snob, even though he
gets his ass
isn't.
beat on his first day of
His ass
school.
beat on his first day of school. His dad is one of the greatest fighters in the world and refuses to teach him how to defend himself.
Yeah.
It's
And
a lot of pain.
Harsh reality, he is like confronted face to face with the fact that his father is barely functional at this point from the brain damage.
Yes.
And also, like, it just seems like Rocky and Tommy Gunn are like having sex off screen.
Oh, they're definitely, yes. His dad is definitely having a sexual awakening, and it's threatening to break apart their family. And also, by the way, he's getting beat up by E from Entourage, which is like the saddest person to get bullied by. And his
Is that who that was?
Yes,
Yeah,
that is
you
who
didn't
that was.
catch that?
And
I didn't catch
his
it either.
obviously about to come out friend. So it's like amazing that these are the bullies that are kicking his ass.
Oh, the haircut on the
Yeah, I
on
see
the
it's like a little.
what is
yeah.
it? What is a bully's friend called? A toady or a stooge?
Yes, a toady
Yeah.
or a stooge. Yeah,
Yeah,
A lackey. Yeah.
Yeah, lackey.
Yeah,
his
the
lackey
haircut
is
on that
definitely-
guy.
Yeah, very effeminate. Got a wild haircut and declines the opportunity to fight as long as if it's actually gonna if he might get punched.
All right.
He's all about kicking him when he's down though.
Yeah.
We have a lot to cover, obviously, about this movie. Before we get into the plot summary, I just want to say that I think on paper, this movie sounds like a good decision, right? I mean, this movie set out to bring it back to basics, to make it obviously look and feel like the first Rocky movie, right?
And they tried. They did.
Yeah, that was the goal, I think.
Brought back the first director. This is the only sequel that wasn't directed by Stallone.
That's right.
Until the Creed movies.
They brought back the original director from Rocky 1, who, between this and that, had made... at
least 2 Karate Kids, I think.
Right, Karate Kid, the first one, right?
Yeah.
And then he did Karate Kid Part 3. I don't know if he did 2. Part 3 was also a bomb.
He did the second one too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he kind of left the Rocky franchise to do Karate Kid.
Mm-hmm. We did a movie called Lean on Me with who was that? Morgan Freeman. Yeah, school drama.
Yeah,
that was also very well received.
Did he do one of the? He almost did Saturday Night Fever.
Yes, he was like the first director on it and left. Or was fired.
Also, like, you know, they made this a street fight instead of in the ring. Like, you know, obviously that
sounds cool on paper.
It does sound cool. Yeah,
it does sound cool on paper. It kind of looked like a bad wrestling like promotion in the reality of the film.
like the idea too of like the villain in this movie is a Rocky type, like ostensibly set to be like Rocky's predecessor, like the new Rocky, and he trains him. A protege, yeah, and he trains him and then turns on him. Like, I think that on paper sounds like a good idea for a movie. But what kills me about this is that why did they make these decisions? Wasn't Rocky IV a huge hit? Mm-hmm. Like,
just give us another Rocky IV, you dummies,
or like escalate. You know, like what's the next step? If you
Space.
Robots,
he fights an alien.
Yeah, aliens, robots.
Yeah, Rocky.
Oh, we had
Predator.
robots in 4.
Yeah,
right.
we did have robots in 4. Just more robots.
That's another thing too.
Robot.
They don't talk about
robot versus Rocky.
Yes.
They don't talk about what happened to the robot in this movie, and that upsets me. I mean, obviously he got auctioned off to someone.
They have a whole auction scene, and they don't show them auctioning the robot.
They don't show the prized possession, the most valuable part of their.
They definitely should have shown that,
There's
and like Paulie getting upset about it.
Well, okay,
like.
What if they didn't sell it and it came back to the house with them?
I followed you.
Paulie would be like, make sure you empty out the cum trap.
Okay, here's the thing. Like,
that robot, I left the robot full.
Here's one of the things about like this movie seeming like it's gonna work on paper and then it doesn't execute. It's like, at some point, why didn't someone say like, what is Paulie doing here? And like, what is like he continues to be Paulie, but like, yeah, he's a leech. Like
he lost all their money. They've never known what to do with the character. It's just a terrible character.
They have to support this guy who's drunk and abusive.
He's in like every goddamn movie, and he's terrible in all of them.
Yes,
and they never know. They never know if he's a good guy or not. Like they're always like, hey, he's kind of an antagonist, but also they love him. He's Rocky's best friend, even though he causes him nothing but grief.
Also, it makes no sense. They say that he gave them power of attorney while he was in Russia, but wasn't Paulie with him in Russia?
Yes, yeah, that's true. That's true.
And why did Paulie have that power?
Right,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I was watching this and I'm like, so Bernie Madoff, right? It's a Ponzi scheme. Yeah. Is that what happened here?
Well, you know, they do a good job of explaining that the guy was in the world of the movie, the lawyer in the scene that we're watching right now, in fact, is explaining to him that their lawyer's plan or their accountant's plan, I can't remember what it was to take their money, invest it on a sure thing, make a quick profit, keep the profit, and then put their money back. Unfortunately, the guy who did this got scammed, and he lost all the money. So it's not that what happened to them wasn't illegal. It definitely was like a Ponzi scheme type scam. It's that they have no recourse because they can't sue anybody that has that money now. So they're just shit out of luck.
I had never seen this movie before, and I thought what they were going with was they were going to say that Paulie bet it all
on
against Rocky. Against Rocky when he fought the Russian.
I mean,
that
come on,
make
Rock.
Sense.
That Russian was huge.
He was way bigger than you.
Hey,
I thought you were gonna lose.
I mean, he killed Apollo. What chance would you have?
You've never been that great, in my opinion. I don't know. I've been traded to you. You got me for a traitor. What the hell? Like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. Before we go to what happened to Rocky's trainer, because he's just disappeared
Gone.
at this point. Like, here's the thing. A big plot point is like, oh, Rocky's got to go back to the neighborhood. He's poor again and he has brain damage. Let's get serious. Like, he's going to have problems. It's like, well, Paulie has always been this guy's problem. Like, why are we addressing that as well if we're going to take it there?
But as far as a character goes, he really loves him as a brother-in-law.
Yes, he does.
Really.
But why?
He's been helping him through 5 movies at this point.
And he's an ingrate the entire time. Paulie does not give a shit and does not appreciate
He's a
anything that's done for him.
narcissist, and he tells Rocky, "Hey, aren't you glad I held on to this house, or else we'd have nothing?"
I love
the
when
guy who lost all the money.
I love when Adrian's blaming him and yelling at him, and he's like, "Oh, what are you busting my balls for? So I lost a few million. So I lost all your money."
Well,
he
does
make me feel bad about that now?
He does get punched in the face at the end.
Yeah. In the meeting with fake Don King, he's like, this guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about. They're like, Paulie, you lost us all our money. Why are you here?
Yeah, your advice is not valid. Paulie likes him. Let's get the fuck out.
But like all the characters in the scene are like looking around at each other like, why is he even here?
Yeah.
By the way, this scene is great. This is a doctor scene, and Rocky whispers something in Adrian's ear, and it's, "Hey, can we keep this secret?" It's such a weird thing to whisper. Why can't you tell the doctors yourself?
Keep what secret?
That he has brain damage.
Yeah, Adrian's like, look, everyone fucking knows. Like,
They heard you talk, Rocky.
not only have they seen you've been beaten almost to death multiple times on live television, like you have to do interviews, and they can tell.
I said to Arbi before you got here, Colin, that like growing up, Sylvester Stallone, in the late 80s, early 90s, which is when I like started watching movies pretty much. Like I knew about Sylvester Stallone, and the thing about him was that I remember my dad like can't stand him. He's like, "Oh, you can't understand what he's saying. He talks like this, And I remember thinking like, yeah, he talks a little funny, but I could still understand him. That's like kind of overblown. Like I think that's a little mean to like talk about this guy, like or like Arnold Schwarzenegger too. People were didn't like his accent or whatever, but like it's fine. It's fine.
It's not fine, Matt. It's amazing and great.
Yeah, but then I saw this movie and I was like, oh, this is what people are talking about. Stallone is like really putting it on in this movie.
Yeah, he's leaning into it so hard. And like I think we all know that I'm a person who loves people being over the top and heavy-handed at times, and this movie crossed the line for me many, many times. Like that first scene when he's actually finally acknowledging the brain damage and really trying to like put a performance. He's crying. It's after the fight. He doesn't know what's going on anymore. Like that scene gets me. And then like they keep it going throughout the movie, and he keeps laying it on thicker and thicker, and then still pretending like it's charming because like I'm supposed to just accept that Rocky is charming because I've seen 4 movies already where like they did more work to actually convince me that he was charming. Now he just seems like he has like a real problem, and I'm supposed to listen to him like with this pseudo philosophy stuff that he got from Mickey, which is another problem for me. I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead, get into it.
Okay.
Get into it.
This Mickey character, who is this guy? I never saw him in these movies before. Like Mickey,
he's a father figure now.
Yeah,
now that he's a ghost.
He's like Jiminy Cricket.
It's very obvious that they needed Mickey to be a father figure, and like also very obvious that they refused to mention the fact that Rocky may or may not have had an actual father.
Right, they do throw that in there.
Yeah, they do throw that in there because when Tommy Gunn is saying that his father would beat the hell out of him and blah, 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 Rocky says, well, at least you had a dad, or whatever.
I took offense to that. I'll take no dad over a very abusive
I thought the
dad.
same thing. I was like, so he's saying that not knowing your father is worse than having a father who beats you all the time? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, but like it was part of Mickey's character that Mickey was his manager and like kind of couldn't help him beyond that because Mickey didn't really go much beyond being a boxing manager.
Because Mickey's kind of a loser. That was what was charming about the first movies, was that they're all kind of losers who couldn't really do it on their own. And that was like what Mickey became. If anything, he became more
simpler,
more
shallow,
more pathetic.
Yeah,
as the series went on, because he was more dependent on Rocky, and he was aging, and he knew it was kind of the end of the road for him, and
hiding his illness.
And he was just happy that he had a place to live because he happened to catch on to this rising star at the right time. But like that was all an extension of the first Rocky movie, where he was both a guy that Rocky needed and a guy who constantly failed Rocky. And now we retcon it so that he's this Rocky's biggest supporter, because they developed a relationship. But you can't just forget about the fact that he wasn't there when Rocky needed him. That was the whole point of the first movie. Was that nobody was there when Rocky needed him except for Adrian.
That's why it ignores something. It's like, they got close and he was maybe like a father figure to him, but it specifically ignores a couple things. One, the trainer guy, his actual trainer, which his name is Duke also, which they named the bad guy in this Duke.
Well, that's why
dumb.
That's why if you guys notice, they call him Tony a lot in this movie. The 3 times they refer to him, or 2 times they refer to him in this movie, and once in the last Rocky movie, they call him Tony, which is the actor's name. His name is Tony Burton. So I don't know if that's a mistake or if they were just like, well, his name's Duke in the credits, but Tony.
But so he disappeared, and like at the point of Rocky 4, he's actually developed that relationship with Rocky where he's like a father figure to him and he's close with him now. Yeah, Mickey and Rocky got close, but it was always part of Rocky and Mickey's relationship that Mickey was his trainer, and like it was never a part of it that Mickey wanted to give him something for like a life that's more than just a boxer or outside of the ring. Because it was always clear that Mickey didn't know a lot about that.
Now, I do buy the idea that he would want him to have. We're watching the scene now with like Ghost Mickey in the Ghost Ring, where he's remembering this conversation that seems like it never happened.
Yes,
but I do buy that like Mickey would want to give him a cherished memento. He lets Mickey live with them. He invites Mickey to be a part of the family. But yeah, the whole Mickey is the life advice guy. Is kind of not like, clearly Mickey was very grateful because he was a loser and Rocky took him to the top.
And then on top of that, the thing you're talking about, the necklace he gives him, it was very clear in Rocky 2 that necklace was meant to show that Rocky spent his money too fast when he got rich. And that was part of that. That's when he gets that necklace, isn't it? When he buys the T-top and the
No, he buys different.
Jacket.
He buys different jewelry then. Oh. This is like a little Golden Gloves necklace.
He had that before though, and they just like said it was from.
I think
Mickey.
Apollo Creed had it.
Apollo definitely had one.
Because there's a part in this movie where he's like, "Who got the other glove?" And he's like, "He probably gave it to some other bum." Yeah, and it's Apollo Creed.
I actually like the Mickey character in this. I was going to talk to you guys about the writing of this movie. I feel like Stallone uses the most like structured, classical 1930s type of Hollywood writing, where he needed that character to still be his coach. Because at the end of the movie, you still hear Mickey say, "Get up, you son of a bitch," because Mickey loves you.
Yep.
Yeah, and it works as that writing tool. It has to be there, or else you're really getting into this movie has no weight.
That's why I say, like, I usually like stuff that's like over the top, heavy-handed, overly straightforward. Like, but this movie does it so much that it's like.
Now I wonder, would this? It's so hard to take these franchises. We don't talk about this enough on this show that's about franchises. But if this movie just existed outside of the franchise, if you weren't dealing with the continuity problems and the characters shifting and whatever, would it be slightly better?
Yes.
Would you be able to accept these things a little more? I think it would certainly be. I think it hurts by. I don't think it would be a great movie, but I think it's damaged by comparison to the other movies.
100% agree.
I totally agree. I think it's almost fun to watch if you like. I think. To make it more fun to watch, you have to like suspend disbelief or disregard things or compartmentalize.
Compartmentalize. Yeah.
Hey yo, Mickey told me you gotta compartmentalize.
We should just tell the audience that Colin took a couple shots to the head before the show, and he's gonna be a little punchy.
It's almost like you guys are saying that this is a standalone movie. Don't bring the history of Rocky 1 through 4. Maybe they should have called this one Rocky Balboa instead of Rocky 5.
If this movie were made today, it would just be called Rocky. That's the new thing that they do.
Yeah.
I know we already made a movie called that, but let's just do it.
Gotta put the year it's made in parentheses.
It's not quite a reboot. It's not quite a sequel. It's a little bit of both. We'll call it the same thing.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the big, I mean, aside from the fact that there's so much dumb shit that goes on in this movie, the big thing that hurts it for me is the street fight at the end, as opposed to a regular boxing match. I think if this had somehow, found a way to get Rocky into the ring again, I would have been like, okay, that's not bad. But the fact that it doesn't do that makes it not feel like a Rocky movie. But having said that, like you said, Matt, they're clearly trying to reinvent it. And, we've talked a little bit before about how Rocky 2 kind of turned into this wish fulfillment boxing movie, where the first one is a gritty character study. Mm-hmm. And I think 2 through 4 are very wish fulfillment boxing fantasy
100%.
Sports movies. And this one really does get back to the, hey, we're going to try to, they don't succeed at it, but they are definitely trying to be a gritty character movie,
Yeah, it's hard for me to believe that this is directed by the same guy who directed the first movie. Like, that's what I just kept thinking the whole time. I was like, the first one is so nuanced and, like, you care so much about the characters. And, like, the writing in this one is clearly worse. And
but it's
like,
written by the same guy, too. So,
I know, which is also very strange. It's like, I don't know. Something is totally, Stallone has been quoted as saying, like, when talking about this movie years later, he said he made this movie for greed. Like, he just did it for the paycheck.
He can't wait to shit all over this movie. There was something that's in all the IMDb trivias of all these movies where he was on some show and they had him rate the Rocky movies, like, on a 1 to 10 scale. And they're basically like all 9s, even the dumb one. Even Rocky 2, Rocky 3 shouldn't be 9s. He loves them all. This one he gave a 0, which I think is excessive, but he also has said that the reason he did Rocky Balboa was because he had the opportunity, he had an idea, and he hated the fact that this was the final Rocky movie, and he was like, I just want to let him go out with a little more dignity. Which I don't complain about.
I got a couple things.
Well, wait, before you get into your complaints, I feel like we've kind of talked enough about the plot that a plot summary should be real easy. We should just bang through it.
That's me?
Yeah.
Okay, so do we need to
somebody get a
Yeah, here, I got it right now.
All right. Pull out your clock.
Sorry, that was one of your better puns.
Yeah.
It was a little. We're working really blue today.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
All right, you ready? Here we go.
Okay.
On your mark, get set. Rocky 5.
Okay, Rocky 5 begins where Rocky 4 left off with a fight with Ivan Drago, and then he's in the shower afterwards, and he's showering, and something's wrong, and he tells Adrian, hey, I have brain damage, except that's not what he says, because people with brain damage have a hard time communicating.
They're smart enough.
Yeah, have a hard time communicating. So Adrian doesn't want him to fight anymore. He tries to say he's retired, and the press is confused, and then a Don King ripoff comes in and says, you need to fight my fighter, who I own, and that'll make us all the money in the world. We'll do it in Tokyo. And he says no. So then Rocky finds out that Paulie gave away all the money and they're poor again. So he puts on the same clothes and goes to the same house from Rocky 1 because that,
nostalgia.
Yeah. That's how they got poor, I guess. And so now his son's mad at him because, like, he's in the old neighborhood. And then a boxer, he starts working at Mickey's old gym, and a boxer comes in, and he really wants to be good, and he wants Rocky to train him. And Rocky gets a huge crush on him. He starts neglecting the son. The son gets upset about that. Then the Don King guy gets his hooks in the boxer kid. His name is Tommy Gunn, and he's like he controls Tommy Gunn now. And Rocky gets mad, and he's not too mad because he still has a crush on him. But then then he watches him fight, and he's like kind of sad because he realizes he needs to like be good to his kid, and he hasn't been. And so then he tries to patch up that relationship. But first he goes to the bar, and then Tommy Gunn, post-fight, after being heckled by the press, decides he needs to go fight Rocky immediately, or instigate a fight with him so that they can box. But then he instigates a real fight with him, so they have a street fight. And Rocky has some brain damage hallucinations and ends up winning. And then people dance in the streets and cheer. And then he repairs his relationship with his son somehow. And Adrian...
by running up the steps.
Yeah, exactly. And Adrian's been working at the pet shop again.
Great. Pretty solid.
Yeah,
that was
like
that was
8
about 2
seconds
minutes.
over.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
little.
Yeah, no, okay. 2 things. Going off of what Harris said about the street fight not working, I think one of the other things that doesn't work, and also takes away from, like, the street fight, to me, that's good on paper, and that could be a good, like, it's it's the execution, and it's the execution of the whole film, and like little things like he's gonna wear the exact same clothes from Rocky 1. Like we already have that the Rocky song is like they're like aware of it in the movies.
That
like,
is weird.
It's weird, right? We've talked about that.
When the plane lands,
yes,
they pretty much have a band playing the Rocky theme. It's like you're breaking the fourth wall. That is weird.
Yeah, and to me, like this whole him putting on the same clothes that he used to wear in Rocky 1 very deliberately and having a whole scene where he tells the audience that that's what he's doing is like really like that same feeling, but much worse. It's like, okay, we get it. Like he's going back to basics. He's going back to poor. He's going back to the old neighborhood where he didn't have a lot of money. But like, do you have to put him in a costume? It feels so forced and so
it's
like
almost
a
like
facade.
It's almost like in the first movie where they felt the need to explain the random stuff of like, you know, how his shorts in the poster don't match the shorts that he's wearing. And it was just like all behind the scenes production stuff, but Stallone felt the need to over explain it all. This has the same problem where they felt the need to like over explain every aspect of the production design and the journey of the characters.
It's classic Stallone writing, apparently.
Yeah.
It is. And he lays it on thick.
Hey, listen, he is a good writer. He's a smart guy, but he is basic ass. You know, like it's not like, you know, this is kind of, he's got formulas and things that work, and he kind of works on that level.
He's writing for guys like Rocky.
Yeah.
He wants those guys to see this movie, and like everything has to be kind of like spelled out.
Yeah, but now we see that there's no one like Rocky because like no one has like actually taken that many beatings that hard.
True. Yes.
And no one has the heart. I mean,
it's mostly heart.
Yeah, it's the heart
and skull.
I feel like this movie like drills all the obvious things into your head, like, you know, he won because he has heart. Don't you understand? Like they say, Adrian says that, and like there's a couple other things like your son, you're losing your son.
Yeah,
you know,
like right in his face, saying you're losing your son.
Yeah,
like when every scene in the movie to this point has been about how he's kind of losing his son.
Yeah, we've had 40 minutes at
deserved.
least of that content.
It reminded me of like I think I said this to you earlier. Like it reminds me of writing book reports in high school. Like, you know, I would you'd write the whole essay, and then the last like page would be, in conclusion, this theme means this, and this means that, and I would spell out everything. Like that's what this movie is. It's the final paragraph of an essay, just sort of like nailing everything that all the other movies have, I guess, subtly like stated.
Yeah, none of them were that subtle.
Well, this one's like the most overt of all.
But it's almost its own genre. Like it has its own, I don't know what you call it, charm.
It feels like it's from 1990. It feels like it's of its time, but like in a really, I don't know how to explain why.
You know what, I do feel like they didn't totally miss at trying to get back some of the vibe of the first Rocky movie. You know, like I feel like they did a lot of the elements of it. It certainly looks a lot like the first Rocky movie. It was shot. It's like a lot of, apparently John G. Avildsen, the director, was having a fight with a cinematographer because he kept on saying, you've got too many lights. Everything's too bright. Why do you have so many lights? You know, and then he would show him scenes from the first Rocky that were just single point lighting, just one light. And the guy was like, no, I don't want to do this. It makes everything look like a shitty documentary. And he was like, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm going for. Do that. And it does have that kind of gritty vibe. You know, they're back to the poor neighborhood. They're wearing shitty clothes. It's got like it's like a very superficial recreation of that original Rocky vibe.
And, okay, here's the thing. I think it has like a falseness and a superficiality to it. And like what you said about Stallone, he did this for the money. Like a huge plot point is that like Rocky has to not do it for the money,
right?
Because he has heart, and like that's okay. Also, it's frustrating that like part of the thing that they're trying to get across with this is that although he has brain damage, he does still have heart. But I think they're also trying to say he still has some kind of street smarts, and like they did not prove that to me. I'm sorry, like I did not see that, you know?
Well, we know his street smarts. He was a knuckle breaker that was bad at getting guys to pay money.
Exactly.
He was
like,
not,
it betrays the first movie. Like he didn't come up through street smarts. He actually was like kind and came up through the streets being nice.
Somehow. Luckily he was likable and big enough that he didn't get fucked because he's so nice.
But then he gives that speech to his son, like, you got to know how to handle yourself out here.
But then he
on
won't
these
teach him how to fight.
Yeah,
It doesn't make any sense.
What is that?
You know, I actually had that thought. The thought occurred to me that like it would have been cooler, I think, or a better storyline if Tommy Gunn ended up being like what Rocky could have become had he gone a wrong way. Like almost like in the first movie, if like Rocky was given some sort of choice, like, you know, you could do this or that, and like, you know, you can like sell out or you can like whatever. But then in this movie, Tommy Gunn is given that choice and he chooses like the opposite, you know, and he kind of does sell out in this movie. You know, he chooses to, although Rocky is not given that choice in the first movie exactly, but like I would have liked to see that dichotomy a little better, you know, the parallel of like Tommy Gunn being like the bad Rocky.
Because they definitely draw a parallel between Tommy Gunn's ascension and Rocky's. And those different choices that they make because they're different people. Because Tommy Gunn's a victim of abuse and, you know, has all this anger inside of him.
You guys are hitting on something. These are all caricatures.
Yes,
they're very
That's
broad,
the problem. If someone had taken Stallone's script and said, thanks for the outline, now we're gonna make this more realistic, and we still suspended this idea that they lost all their money and he's brain damaged, that's why he's talking like that again.
I want to see that
story
stuff.
Underneath to what Matt said, where it could have shown like and given some character development. I mean, everybody just like Tommy Gunn is good, and then boom, just turns on a dime without any like. Maybe he was conning Rocky, but I didn't believe he was.
They didn't play it that way.
No.
I actually think the Tommy Gunn Rocky relationship is, you know, aside from all the obvious homosexual subtext that they never address, is one of the better things in this movie. I think that kind of works to a certain extent. And then we have Tommy Gunn do a heel turn out of nowhere that doesn't really make sense, that they don't really build.
Well, he gets corrupted.
But they don't set it up.
It happens fast.
But they could have set it up that was there. It just needed to be brought to light. It was part of his growing up. You have the breadcrumbs there, but they didn't really put it all together.
Or if they wanted to be really
in a meaningful
bold,
way.
You know, if they wanted to take a real swing, what they should have done is write this movie and cut Tommy Gunn out of it entirely and just write a movie about Rocky going broke and him and his family having to figure out how to, and that would be they sort of tried to have their cake and eat it too, because they wanted to make a boxing movie and they wanted to make a Rocky movie instead of just telling the story about finishing the story of this guy, where it's like boxing wasn't the reason we were interested in Rocky in the first movie. We pointed this out when we watched the first movie. There's barely any boxing in it. You know, it was about these characters. If they really wanted to do justice to this, it would have been about the characters going back and having to deal with this major life shakeup. And boxing would have been a superficial thing that like Rocky would open the gym and train a young fighter, but he wouldn't be a contender. It would just be like, that's Rocky's fucking job. And he's trying to keep his family together and his kids having trouble adjusting. And that's the primary focus of the movie. But obviously they could never do that.
They have to have a character that is like the challenge of the final fight, you know? And then,
because it's a Rocky movie,
yeah, exactly, right. Like,
yeah, they're handcuffed by the by the formula that they created.
Exactly, yeah. All this other stuff I want to see. Like, I've been begging for them to acknowledge the fact that he has brain damage the whole time, and then like they took it way too far and did it wrong, and then like the movie gets confused about like, so there's a couple different conflicts going on. And they're like triangular each time. It's like there's a conflict with Rocky, his son, and Tommy Gunn because of the jealousy and the neglect and all of that stuff. But there's also a conflict with Rocky, Adrian, and Don King, fake Don King. Yeah. And like both of those are going on.
George Washington something or
Duke.
other. George Washington Duke.
Yeah, George Washington Duke. But like neither of those are like direct conflicts, and both of them are like require three people to like actually for you to understand what the conflict is.
You know, you've been talking about the brain damage thing. I read somewhere that apparently they started shooting this and the brain damage, Rocky was leaning in, or Sylvester Stallone was leaning into it even more and going like full Simple Jack. And like,
I love
and
that.
they saw some of the dailies, and he was like, no, can't do that. That's too much. So
I feel like they did that already.
No, so
You
I
went
guess
full total.
yeah, so I guess it could have been worse. It was really like
By
giving the
the
Simple
way,
Jack treatment.
On that note, in part 2, how long does he stay in the hospital? Like a month, it seems like.
With Adrian or after the
No.
No, when
okay.
he's
When
when he got his ass beat.
They
yeah.
roll Apollo and him into ambulances and take him away to hospitals. And remember, he comes to Apollo's room, talks to
He
him, all
wheels
that
himself
jazz.
over, yeah.
All that jazz, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He goes against double Apollo with Drago.
Yeah.
All he gets is brain damage, but no other problems. Go
All
home,
he
you're
gets
good.
is brain damage.
I don't think
think that's.
But
I
no.
fought. That should be a T-shirt. I fought Ivan Drago, and all I got was brain damage.
But maybe it should have been 3 weeks in the hospital, a lot of testing,
Hey,
and then
we don't know. It could have been 5 years. They come back and the
that's
kid's
right.
like, "Hey,
we
kid,
don't
I
know
barely
how old the kid
recognize you. We just got out of this Russian hospital. They do things a little slower there."
But I think because, like, okay, so like he's not going to go to a Russian hospital, right? They can't
Oh, you know
acknowledge
he did.
like the
You know he
Russian
did.
healthcare system, but they won't show that in the movie. They're
No,
not.
of course not.
Maybe
Yeah,
what
like-
happened is like the kid from the 4th movie like died or ran away or something, and like they just brought this other kid in. They were like, "Yeah, he's got brain damage.
He's got brain damage.
He won't even notice." Yeah, hey son. And in the beginning, he just calls him kid throughout the movie. He's like, "Hey kid." Like I was like,
Do you
"Does-
think he kept
does he have
calling
a
him
name?
Sage?
Probably. I mean, they're
And
calling
they were
Tony
like,
Burton
listen,
Tony.
you're not getting his real character's
Yeah.
name, which is
Just call
Rocky
him Kid.
Jr.
Although he calls him kid in all the movies, and I think it's because they don't really call him Rocky Jr. ever,
I didn't even know his name was Rocky Jr. Watching this with subtitles, and
Yeah.
it came up, and I just realized
I mean,
it.
I think his name is Robert, and I think some people call him Robert.
They
They
refer
actually
to-
call Rocky Robert.
Right.
George Washington Duke calls him Rocky Balboa when he first sees him,
Oh, really? Wow.
which is weird.
Yeah,
It's-
that makes me uncomfortable just hearing.
Yeah,
it
I
say.
know. Seriously, it's interesting. You were mentioning that, like, this, like, where this was in his career and where where the character goes, and it's kind of is reflective of where he was at, like from the height of the heights. Where Rocky IV, he was literally, I think, the biggest movie star in the world. And that's 85.
Yeah.
And then after that, he followed that up with Cobra, where he plays Marion Cobretti. I can't not say it. It's hilarious. It's such a dumb movie. I'm sure that made money. He was riding high. Then he made Over the Top, where he arm wrestles for custody of his son.
Mm-hmm.
Then he makes Rambo 3, which I think also did okay, but was like, I think it was the one that killed the Rambo franchise, so couldn't have done that well. Then he does Lock Up.
killed it for a while.
Yes, for a while. Then he does Lock Up with Donald Sutherland. Then he does Tango and Cash, which is hilariously bad, and I kind of wish that we watched because it's just so dumb. And then he does Rocky V. So he's basically had a 5-year descent into more and more crapdom throughout this.
So he follows that up with an intellectual property that's his. He's writing it, and he decides, I'm going to just dump this one too.
Yeah.
Let me ride this out all the way down to the gutter.
Yeah.
And then he does Oscar and Stop Him, My Mom Will Shoot, 2 comedies, neither one of which is good, although we do like the idea of Oscar. But
then Tommy Gunn is evil because he has to take a quick payday.
Yeah, exactly. Well, exactly. But I'm thinking more of less of the moral of the story, and more of his mindset in writing. Sylvester Stallone writes Rocky at his lowest point. When this is a guy who, the last time he made a Rocky movie, he was at the biggest point of his career. He was the best in the world, and now he's feeling like everyone's shitting on him, and he's just getting kicked around, and he can't do anything right. And he tries to write the movie of, hey, what if that happened to Rocky? Mm-hmm. And I kind of admire the attempt.
Yeah, to make it personal.
Yeah, it clearly comes from a personal space, and I just wish he had executed it.
Yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense. And the background you guys are giving me, which I didn't know, that he hates this movie and whatever. If he maybe put more heart into this movie,
Yep.
He needed someone to overtly pound that into his head.
Make a better movie because
Mickey loves you.
Mickey loves you.
So when did his career like uptick again? In a couple years, he does
Cliffhanger?
Well, he follows up "Stopping My Mom Will Shoot" with Cliffhanger, which is like in a way a return to. Listen, when he made Oscar, that was like the too big to fail. Like this is after this movie had bombed. He was basically cashing in chips and like, I'm gonna change. I think Schwarzenegger was doing comedy then, and he was like, I'm gonna write and direct a comedy where I'm a slick guy. Like he was trying to recast himself. It didn't work at all. Stopping My Mom Will Shoot didn't work, and then I think he did Cliffhanger to be like, okay, I'm gonna be a muscle man who doesn't talk a lot and just things explode. So it's Cliffhanger, Demolition Man, and The Specialist, which are all action, big, whatever.
Then he does that shitty one with Antonio
Assassins.
Banderas. Yeah.
Bite your tongue. Assassins is a gem. It's a forgotten gem.
I don't know.
Look, you blew it. I'm still alive. It's such a good movie. Look, he also did the turd that is Judge Dredd before Assassins.
Oh, true. Also, Daylight.
Daylight came right after, and then so now we're seeing like it's an undulating wave of
like
some
that.
successes and some failures, but he's definitely like all in on the I'm an action movie guy, and that's my lane, and I'm going to just stick with that. And Live or Die, Succeed or Fail, it's going to be action movies all the way for me. And then he takes a chance in 1997. Copland.
Yeah.
Which was good.
And it was him being like, this is the better version of this, where he's like a down on his luck loser.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
he nails it because he actually is a good actor, but he didn't write or direct that one.
That's right. I think that might have to do with it.
Might have something to do with it. Not that I'm not saying he's not a good writer or director, and he's very competent, and he's done a lot of good things.
He's a craftsman.
But he's a craftsman. He's not an artist.
Well,
And,
I think we can all applaud him because we can all agree that doing a movie like Oscar could turn anyone into a real grouch.
oh my God, you sat there waiting so patiently for that. I don't even hate it just because you were so patient. You waited a good 3, 4, 5 minutes of me
Also,
monologuing.
I feel
Nice
that
to-
although Judge Dredd was bad, it was very imaginative.
So going back to Rocky 5,
No.
Exactly.
I think we should talk about Sage, and I think we should talk about Talia Shire, because I think those are the two outstanding performances here. I feel like those two characters are in a different world. They're more realistic. They're more grounded. They're playing with the material based on reality. Everyone else, like I said, is just a caricature.
What would you say is the most outstanding thing about Tommy Gunn's performance? And I know what my answer is.
Can we talk about Tommy Gunn's performance?
Another R.I.P. by the way.
Yeah, he
Yep.
died of.
I think
AIDS.
Sage died. Yeah, I think, and there's a good documentary on 30 for 30 about him.
My favorite part about Tommy Gunn is his haircut.
It is
The mullet.
It is a sweet. Yeah, it is a pretty sweet mullet.
It's so nice.
The mullet is like kind of coming back. So I look at it and it didn't even faze me. I was just like, yeah, that's a haircut.
But it works
today.
perfectly
Matt,
for
are
the
you
character.
considering a mullet?
But
I'm like kind of
you
going
could
there.
kind of pull off a mullet.
I'm kind of going there.
I don't think you should, but I mean, you get like 2 inches longer in back, and it's on.
I'm going there. You'll
Actually,
see.
you know what? I'm going to take it back. I'm not going to say I don't think you should. I think this could
must.
work. The front of your hair looks good. I think you just need a back to match.
Yeah, it's going there. You'll see. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
But do you think they
grow
should
a
have casted an actor?
I don't know.
No, because my actual legitimate, not lie, favorite part about Tommy Gunn's performance, Tommy Morrison's performance, is his physical presence.
Yeah.
He looks great as a boxer, and I think he's not a bad actor. I don't think he's like
No,
No,
not
yeah,
bad.
he's fine.
he's playing a cartoon character.
That's right.
But he's doing it well, and he's kind of playing a version of himself. He's a boxer from Oklahoma who was a bruiser whose mom was entering him in tough man contests as a 13-year-old when he was fighting against 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Minimum, and he was winning those things. He's just a big, tough guy.
He looks more of a heavyweight than Stallone ever does.
Definitely. Well, he actually, because Stallone is probably would
Not
never
a
be
heavyweight.
and Tommy Morrison actually was.
Also, most of his scenes are dialogue with Rocky when Rocky is basically like at his worst in these movies. He's going simple Jack with
Yeah.
with the brain damage stuff. In all the scenes where he's especially talking to Tommy Gunn, it's like he confuses where Tommy Gunn is from and says it's Orlando when he's already like in love with this kid at this point. And like he thinks he's from Orlando and like
He knew it was an O word. I do the same thing sometimes.
Yeah,
maybe he's dyslexic. Maybe he's not brain damaged.
But this movie is so like offensive at times with like forcing me to accept that I think Rocky is a charming character because I've already seen the other movies. You know what I mean? Like, that's not charming.
If you can't coast on what you've done in the past, what's the point of making a sequel?
You have a point. You have a point.
Tommy Morrison was actually a pretty decent boxer too, which is he might be the best of all the actual fight. Well, no, Tarver's probably the best of all the fighters that they actually use in the Rocky movies, like in real life. But Morrison was, I mean, he beat George Foreman. He won a title. You know, he had a lot of good wins and a lot of close losses to real fighters. So.
I read that they wanted Evander Holyfield to be in this movie.
Really? As one of the people that Tommy fights?
The Union Kane.
Oh, yeah. Did they offer him a real deal?
Oh,
he turned it down.
Oh, that was actually really good.
That was good.
and fast, too. That was nice.
He turned it down because he didn't want any blemishes on his record.
He was undefeated and he didn't
real
want a
or
fictional
fake.
loss.
Yeah.
I thought he turned it down.
I mean, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
Wouldn't it be awesome if he turned it down because of the script?
He read the script. He's like, no, this ain't
It's
bad.
like, I don't know. It's not nuanced enough for me.
Yeah.
I'm looking for something that's got like that gritty realism of the first movie.
Well, if it had come a little later, he might have had a hard time hearing about it.
No, but I'm
sorry. Apologies to Evander. Apologies to Evander.
We're watching this movie on mute, and like just watching Stallone's like physical performance, and it's just so goofy. You could just tell how like hammy
he's miming
doing it. Yeah,
the priest does not need to be in this movie at all.
That was
and
so
it's like,
stupid.
It's so ridiculous.
This
when
is
we get
like
to
the
end.
putting on the old outfit. It's like we're just gonna have references. I hate when movie sequels do this and like shoehorn nostalgic references to the old movies in them when they don't fit. It's awesome if you can do it organically, like like we'll talk about it in the Creed movies, but like Duke's son is Adonis Creed's trainer, and that feels fine. You know, of course Duke's son would be Adonis Creed's trainer because Duke's son would probably end up boxing and hanging out in gyms. And it or when they have Marie from around the corner be Rocky's love interest in Rocky Balboa, that's fine. I get that. That's cool. But when you just have like, hey, there was this priest in the other one, let's have him visit the priest again because it happened in the other one.
that was something that people love.
This shot was mimicked from Rocky as well, where they're
same
fighting in what is it, the
exact
church?
same, dressed and lit the same way. Like
when he fights Spider-Rica.
Do you think he thought he would get a Best Picture nom?
Probably not. But
the worst thing about the priest is when we get to the end and the street fight. So like the street fight happens and there's a crowd watching it of what like Philly drunks, I guess, and
Philly people.
Yeah,
who happen to be drunk.
Yeah, let's
you don't even need to say that.
The full of shredded steak and cheese and Pabst Blue Ribbon.
They just came back from urinating on a public building or something.
What we call a bathroom, a public Philadelphia street.
But like, this is two guys like trying to beat each other to death in like an alley, like getting covered in like disgusting like sewer water and like getting cheered on by people who are like blackout drunk, and the priest is there and celebrating it. And
he's a man of God.
And they freeze frame on him.
Yeah, I don't know what the I don't know how you say take his head off in Italian, but that's what he was yelling. I'm sure.
But like what?
Well,
it's a Philly priest.
Okay. You guys mentioned Philadelphia. Everything happens in Philadelphia, minus one fight, I think, is in Vegas, right?
Yep.
Does everyone live in Philadelphia? Like, they just show up at the house like they all live within a couple of miles of each other.
This means the Don King guy is so obsessed with getting Rocky back in the ring.
Not only did
he's moved
himself,
there for years.
He's moved the champion
That's
of
right.
the heavyweight champion of the world. He's moved him to Philadelphia just to mess with Rocky.
And out of all the venues in the world, and I say world because he mentions Tokyo.
Is your mic on?
Is it?
Is there a switch? Did you like flip it off? Yeah, I hear that now.
Okay.
There you go. Now I hear you good.
So out of all the venues in the world where they could have had that final Tommy Gunn World Championship fight, they decided to also hold that in Philadelphia because afterwards they got to go see Rock.
Yeah.
That actually kind of makes sense in the plot because the George Washington Duke, his whole objective in this entire movie
is to get Rocky in the ring.
Yeah, he is, and if you talk about like the long way to get somewhere, he is so dedicated to getting Rocky fighting again that he's willing to stage like multiple championship bouts just to sort of antagonize Rocky into fighting. And yeah, so I guess I get that. It doesn't make sense, but I mean, if you accept that that's how far the character's willing to go, then I guess so.
It's funny because the character is like very much doing it for the money and not because he cares about anyone else and not because he cares about Rocky, but he's committed over a year of his life to following Rocky around.
It's like Rocky's the only fighter on the planet. I guess if Apollo Creed is dead and Ivan Drago is humiliated in Russia,
right?
Maybe Rocky is the only legit, because they call Union Kane a paper champion, and apparently he was, because he was a tomato can when he actually got in the ring with Tommy Gunn. But also, it's also unclear, like, this all takes place in the course of, like, maybe a year. But I think we see Tommy Gunn fight, like, 4 fights before the title bout, which that would be, like, 5 fights in a year, which even in the 90s...
What about the montage? He fights, like, 37
Let's talk about the montage.
guys.
Yeah. No, they say what his record is. It's 22-0 or 21-0 or something.
Yeah.
Right, and he hadn't had a lot of fights. That's impossible. That's just, like, it's a ridiculous...
20 fights takes, like, 3 years
at least.
Tommy Gunn is also... brain damaged.
Yeah, let's talk about this montage. We're watching it right now. Like, I don't know, guys. Like, after seeing the montage in Rocky 4, nothing compares.
Did you notice that some of these montages have like stock footage stuff in them, like American flags waving in the wind and stuff like that?
Yeah.
This movie is very much got the American flag motif going on. It's even on like the cover of the box. I will say, I wanted to mention this earlier, that like when I was a kid, I had seen Rocky 1, 2, 3, and 4. And for whatever reason, I never opted to rent this movie, like just never saw it. So much so that I never even saw like a clip from this movie. I watched the trailer a few weeks ago, like to prep for this. And it was like, I'm like, I've never seen this. I've never seen what this movie looks like. Like, I don't know what an image from this movie looked like. So like watching this for the first time, this was like, just totally bewildering for me. Like, you
thought you knew the whole story.
Yeah, from my perspective, like Rocky beats Drago in Russia, and that's the culmination of his life and the series. Yeah. You know,
a lot of people like to feel that way. Colin, have you seen this movie before we watched it for this?
Yeah, I remember always disliking it. It just doesn't make sense. It's not.
It really deflates. You know, it kind of like he definitely goes on a trajectory of like fighting, like literally like Fast and the Furious. Like after Ivan Drago, he should have fought like, I mean, I don't even know.
How about
like,
a rematch?
Satan or something. Yeah, like, what is the next thing after that?
Yeah. No, who is the enemy of the world? And like,
or he goes to like WrestleMania or something and has to fight multiple guys.
He should have had to fight Thunderlips in a boxing match.
Yeah.
Or as a wrestler.
I think something you maybe missed out on by not like watching it earlier.
UFC, that could have been the next thing. Like he fights like a martial arts guy or something.
And they do like when they do the street fight, they introduce like street fighting moves into the fight instead of just
I'm
boxing.
into that though.
Yeah.
But as a kid, I was like, that's not fair. That's not boxing.
Well, I mean, talk about not fair. Rocky makes the classic street fighting mistake. Talk about not being street smart. Of he pulls a Markeith Morris and hits a guy and then turns his back on him.
Yeah,
it's like, come on, dude, you don't do that ever.
Of course.
Just for all of our listeners out there, you shouldn't get into fights and you shouldn't hit people, and that's definitely wrong. But if you start shit. This is just a life lesson from Harris. If you start shit, do not turn your back on somebody and walk away and then get mad when they punch you in the back of the head. If you start shit with somebody and you turn your back on them, you might as well just paint a target on the back of your head. They would be remiss to not punch you in the back of the head.
Were any of you guys aware of, like, just a few years before this movie came out, the greatest street fight movie, the greatest street fight scene in a movie there ever was in the movie They Live?
Oh, yeah, the alley fight.
The alley fight.
With Roddy Piper and, what's his name? The guy from...
Keith David.
Yeah,
Someone who was a little less rowdy.
This scene we got to talk about. Rocky's blowing bubbles.
Yeah, what does that have to do with this montage?
That's the most
objectionable. Do you guys remember the chicken?
Yeah.
Was that part 2?
Yeah.
Do you think this is like a deleted scene where they had to hear our whole thing like, oh, if you really want to get a good hand speed, you hit bubbles.
Punch the bubbles. Right.
It'll look cool in the montage.
Yeah, that's exactly what they thought. And some of this other montage where he's fighting the 22 guys or whatever, Some of them, the guy the entire body lifts in the air, the opponent.
Yeah. We've seen that in the other movies, though.
Yeah, we have.
I mean, it's an important element of Rocky.
Like
Sometimes
Street
a punch
Fighter,
can,
the game.
yeah, sometimes a punch can, if you Hadouken the guy hard enough, it will lift him off his feet.
Wait, they just introduced the large-breasted, redheaded woman.
Yeah,
right.
Who doesn't get a name.
Oh, that's the one.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, speaking of the Rocky and Tommy Gunn homosexual theory, what if no, I don't want to even say this.
I mean,
This
it's
is
not
gross.
a theory. It's
What if-
definitely, there's a vibe.
What if Duke hired that woman to give Tommy Gunn VD?
That's what he's
so
he's
nasty.
hoping that
Matt,
it'll
why would you
somehow
say
get
that?
back to Rocky.
Why would y'all say that? I didn't say that.
By the way, these American flag shorts must be the most amazing shorts. They fit Apollo, they fit Rocky, they fit Tommy Gunn.
3 different sized men, very like dramatically different sized men.
And all the blood always comes off, by the way.
The trick is not washing them.
They are gross. They are rank as hell. Part of the reason that you're so successful with them is that your opponent does not want to get too close to you when you are wearing the jungle crotch shorts.
Wait, but going back to Matt, what I think you like missed out on by like seeing it so much later, and when I was younger, I liked the Rocky movies a lot too, and then I saw this and I was like, this isn't working. But it is all the stuff that we talked about, like seeing that this could have been good on paper, and like seeing that like they just didn't execute it. It was worse because it's like then being younger didn't know how to totally express that, but like being more emotionally invested, in the previous 4 movies, it's like so much worse. It's like, oh, they obviously fucked this up, like.
I just remember, and it's funny because I haven't seen this since I was a very young kid, probably early teens at the latest. So it's been many, many years. And like, I'd seen all the Rocky movies at one point.
Yeah.
But I think I said during our Rocky 2 podcast, I didn't really remember that much of Rocky 2. And it was very different than what I remembered it being. This movie, I remembered so much of this. I think I only saw it like one time, maybe all the way through, but I remember so much of it. And just, everything about it, like the only thing that stuck in my head was the street fight, that it ends with that, and that was disappointing. But as I was watching it, I was like, no, I remember all these scenes and all these moments, and I remember not liking them at the time. Listen,
it was easier to watch for me now than it was then.
I was just going to say, I liked it better, and I was way more forgiving now than then. I don't think that's because it's a better movie than I thought it was. It's dumb and bad. No. But
it's the same stuff too that made me upset then. It's like I just didn't know what like retconning was, but now I know that they like retconned this Mickey character and he's like didn't exist before this.
But okay, I'm thinking about with the retconning the kids. So the kid aged 5 years, but then they clearly have a time jump where Tommy Gunn fights for 5 years and the kid doesn't age at all. So maybe it's like the kid aged in advance.
Maybe.
And then didn't age for...
I want to know about what happened between the kid and the bully, where the bully bullied him severely. The kid fights back once, and now the bully is like his buddy, his follower.
Wait, you didn't have that happen? That's the rule. Is if you beat someone in a fight, they have to
be your friend.
Yeah, be your friend and part of your gang.
Weren't the bully and the other kid and the girl and him all wearing the same earring? Was that like...
Yes, I think they pass it around.
Like, why are they culty? Like, what's going on?
They share earrings and cigarettes. That's what they do.
Yeah.
I also think it's funny that they have a clip from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation
what is that
playing on
about?
TV when it literally came out the year before this movie. Would it even be on television? I think that's pretty impressive. I don't know. I'm just wowed by that.
It's crazy how long they hold on that shot. It's like
maybe they're promoting.
Is it a United Artists movie? I don't think it is.
I thought it was. I don't know.
It's like Paramount.
I could look it up, but I refuse. Speaking of looking stuff
we'll
up,
find out somewhere down along the holiday road.
But they also focus in with the Santa figurine falling on the floor after it's kicked. Like, is that symbolism for something?
Maybe it's symbolism, yes.
Yeah, and after everything, to like try to bring Christmas into all of this, come on.
Did you guys notice that Tommy Gunn and Rocky wear the exact same sweater turtleneck?
I just noticed
like,
that.
It's almost identical.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
he's at his holiday party wearing almost the exact same thing. Hey, speaking of looking stuff up, is it time to play top 4?
Great idea.
Want to play top 4? A little top 4 here. Top
Wait,
4.
wait. What about the fact that Rocky does not train at all in this?
You didn't see the bubbles?
The bubbles.
Touche. Yeah, he's tried it.
I was gonna say one cool thing that I actually like that I don't know if they deliver so well in this movie, but like the idea that in the end Tommy Gunn is just a punk and like Rocky doesn't even need to train to beat this guy. Like I like that idea.
It's confusing though, because it means like, okay, so that is the Rocky from Rocky 4, because like that amount of strength would be residual, I guess.
What's funny about it is that like, well, you know, he's been a professional fighter for years and years and years, so obviously he's not gonna like. It's not just that he's gonna get out of shape. He's not going to get out of the habit of training constantly, probably. So you imagine he's keeping himself in pretty good condition. But I think what's so funny about it is in the beginning part of this movie when he announces his retirement for medical reasons or whatever, and then he kind of turns into this old man where he's like wearing his street clothes and he's a trainer and he takes the Mick roll, and you forget that this guy is like just a year removed, right? Like probably in the course of this nonsensical movie where Tommy Gunn fights 22 fights, he's less than a year removed from being the best fighter in the entire fucking world.
In the history of boxing.
In the history of boxing.
We're almost making the case that Stallone should have pushed for more shower scenes.
Well, that was actually what I was getting to. Thank you for beating me there. Yeah.
They're going to forget how good a shape I'm in.
Yeah.
So wait, who are we going to play
by the way,
top
speaking
four
of
with?
shower scenes, The Specialist. Right? Come on. Sharon Stone.
Oh yeah.
Sylvester Stallone.
That was like peak Sharon Stone, I think, right?
Top 4, sorry.
Who are we playing top 4 with?
Yeah,
Sage Stallone?
you know who we were playing top 4 with?
Who?
Talia Shire.
It was somebody we've been saving.
Stallone?
We were playing top 4 with one Sylvester Stallone.
I feel like we've done him.
We have not done him.
Really?
I'm pretty sure we might have done him on our cliffhanger episode, but I don't think we did.
But that's Patreon.
Yeah, that's Patreon. I don't think we did. I'm looking at these movies, and I'm pretty sure we've never done Sylvester Stallone.
Well, if anyone out there thinks we remember the answers, you are sorely
you're
mistaken.
totally mistaken. We do not remember anything, and I kind of want to give you guys a hint and see if you can, with one parameter, get it in 4 guesses. But I'm not going to.
We wouldn't want to use him more than once because we wouldn't want to treat him like he's expendable.
Oh,
Colin, you're doing really well today. Some of these are dynamite, just dynamite. This is great material. Also, I'm like 4 beers in now, so that might be part of it. But I think some of it is you. Do we have guess go first, right? Arbi, you're familiar with top 4, right?
I don't know.
We are looking for Sylvester. According to IMDb, Sylvester Stallone is primarily known for 4 movies.
4 movies. Yeah.
They're listed at the top of his IMDb page. They are kind of random ass generally, and sometimes they're very weird, and sometimes they make total sense. Name one of those 4 movies.
Rocky.
You got it.
Very good.
All right.
We're off to a good start.
Colin?
Cliffhanger.
Thinking too hard.
Yeah.
You were wrong.
Wrong.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to say Rocky 4.
You got it.
Wow.
Yes.
Arbi, back to you.
Last Blood.
No.
Wrong.
Last Blood.
First Blood, also known as Rambo 1.
No.
Wrong.
Wow. All right. So far we've got Rocky and Rocky 4. I'll say The Expendables.
Wrong.
Damn.
Wrong.
Like an Expendables sequel. Like Expendables.
I would.
Which one are they on now?
We are technically on the hint round, but you guys don't need hints, so just keep going. Arbi?
Creed.
Yes.
Ooh.
Wow.
All right, you got one left.
Oh, there's one left.
So it's been Rocky, Rocky 4, and Creed. Colin?
Oh, wait, but you did not guess Expendables.
No, I did.
He did, and he was wrong.
Expendables 2.
Wrong.
Wrong.
I'm going to say Creed 2.
Wrong.
Damn.
Wrong.
Arbi?
Rocky 2.
No.
Wrong.
Wow.
Colin?
We're dying.
Rambo 2 or Rambo First Blood Part 2?
No.
Oh.
Wrong.
Shit.
But thank you for saying the whole title.
Yeah.
All right. I'll say Demolition Man.
Nope.
Wrong.
Arbi?
Wow.
No more hints?
Nope.
We're starting a new round.
You don't need him. Arbi's going to get it in this one.
No, I
He was
don't think
close.
so.
He's gonna get
Rocky
this one.
3.
Yes.
Wow.
My hint up front was going to be that he's the same character in all these movies.
Wow.
And honestly, not bad because it's kind of 4 of the best Rocky movies. You know, Rocky, Rocky 4, Rocky 3, Creed.
Yeah, those are like probably.
Yeah.
When I
considered
said
the best.
Last Blood, I meant First Blood, but I would have imagined that to be there for sure as his second franchise. Well,
I
third
think Last
being,
Blood wasn't a bad guess because it is the most recent movie.
Oh, I was gonna ask: is Last Blood actually the last one, or is it like a Final Frontier situation?
Well, so far it's still the last one, but you know.
I really hope they make another. Just to
Last
fuck up
Blood
the
Part
title.
2?
Yes.
Could it be Rambo Last Blood Part 2?
Yes.
Could that be the full title?
You guys know what movie he's working on now, right?
The Good Samaritan.
The Good Samaritan, or I think it's just called Samaritan, where he's
Wait,
like,
about the actual Bible story, or like
no,
Oh,
he's a guy who like.
Why is this
Literary
guy so
adaptation.
jacked?
I watched Seinfeld too much. That's why I said The Good Samaritan.
He's like a guy who becomes a superhero. I think
Oh,
something like that.
I haven't seen a lot of movies with superheroes in them. I'm surprised they're making that.
I know it's like New Horizons, right? Wow, that was. I mean, should we play again? Is there anyone else? We
There
can do?
really isn't. I've looked at
Kevin
all.
Connolly.
They're all terrible. I mean, how many times can you guess Entourage?
Yeah, that's true.
Why isn't Tony in this movie? Like
He is. He's in the beginning. When Rocky's fighting, he trains him. He's in Russia.
And he tells him, "Go get
That's
Adrian."
That's from Rocky 4.
No, the
It's
new
from this
scene.
movie. They've got a
know.
new scene. They have a scene in the hotel.
But like, where'd he go? He was like Rocky's father.
No, he was like Rocky's trainer.
No, Mickey was like Rocky's trainer.
Don't know. Mickey was like Rocky's father. Didn't you watch this movie?
And Apollo was like his brother.
Apollo was like his mom. Mickey was the dad. Apollo was the mom. Duke was the older brother.
You guys didn't really like that street fight, huh? How about that scene where they crash through that fence
I
and
did
it
like
goes
that.
into the bus area?
Into like the next stage.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Stage, yeah. Like Pee-wee's Big Adventure. They're crashing through the stages.
It's like when you fight a boss at the end of a video game and like you think you beat him, but
Yeah,
then like
no,
a wall
no.
explodes
Oh,
and like
yeah.
suddenly you're in another area and now
Yeah.
he's
Another
much
form.
bigger. Yeah.
Tommy Gunn should have peeled off his face and been Apollo Creed under it. This is all a big ruse.
Oh, God.
Get my revenge. Fake my own death. How'd you fight a Russian?
The post-credit scene of this movie should have been Tony or Duke hanging out on a beach with the robot from Rocky 4. They're just like drinking and he's like, "Happy birthday, Paulie."
Yeah, no, I don't mind the street fight so much anymore. So there's one of the
this
problems.
montage is really good.
Yeah,
by
one of the
way.
problems with the street fight is the like brain damage hallucination
Yes.
thing that goes
That's
on
a
during it.
problem?
I like it.
I liked it.
Okay, but
It
like,
gave me real George Miller flashes.
Yeah,
it made
like
me think
that
of Mad
part where
Max.
blood comes
Yeah,
down.
Yeah. It's definitely got like Mad Max vibes.
Oh yeah, that part with the blood coming down was cool.
Yeah,
I was
I
like,
was
wait,
into
that
it.
wasn't from another movie. They just added that in there.
it's not that the street fight is bad. It's that it's not Rocky. He's not in a boxing ring.
But,
and
guys-
like he's never
and it's not as memorable as it should be.
and they've never like the perspective of the Rocky movies during the final fight scenes has always been like omnipotent, like I'm watching the fight.
Or they lean a lot on the characters, the ringmen and the people in
Yes.
the audience to show, is he winning, is he losing, how's he doing? They
Exactly.
talk to each other.
Right, right.
You
And
don't get
now
any
our
of that.
perspective will go all the way into Rocky's like mind and back out of it, and then like through like multiple video game stages and stuff like that. That is kind of cool, but also it's just so different. From,
But they had
like,
to reinvent themselves. How many
Yeah.
can we do in the ring, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I think I like, for me, I think the biggest problem with the street fight was what I was talking about before with watching it when I was young. Is my initial reaction was like they did not execute a Rocky movie that continues this saga.
you know what? I felt the same way. Again, I was
Yeah.
a kid when I was watching this because you wanted to see him in his domain, which
Yeah.
is the ring, not
Yeah.
the streets.
Yeah.
But as an adult watching it, and you know, being a movie buff, it's like, how many times can we do this? Like,
Yeah.
there's no way him in the ring with Tommy is gonna be as thrilling
As him
At
with Drago.
Drago, right?
Yeah.
Unless they had built it up better, where he really betrays him as the student, and he has to learn a lesson from the teacher. The
Yeah.
teacher is still the master, but they didn't do that. They didn't build it to that direction.
You know, I think there probably was a way to do it. You know, if they built that relationship a little more and the betrayal was a little more
yeah,
severe.
agree.
And plus with Rocky having an injury, like if they didn't say, oh, if you get punched in the head again, you're going to die. And it was just like, hey, you're too injured.
If you take one more cannonball to the stomach.
Exactly. I mean, if they had made it so like, and obviously their diagnosis was stupid because he gets punched in the head a ton of times in a street fight and it doesn't kill him. But like, I think there was a way to do it.
It only helps him. It activates the brain damage powers.
It does activate the brain damage powers. The Mickey flashback. Yeah. That wouldn't have happened without a little bit of brain damage. But also, like, I think about Creed 2, which I think has a really interesting finale that exists, which we're not going to go into it here, but I think they made some really smart decisions in Creed 2 of how to end that fight in a way that's satisfying without topping, without just having it be like the most knock down, drag them out. It gets some emotion into it, basically bring the Drago family and their decision making into it.
You know what this movie has similarities to? I feel like in this era, in the late 80s, early 90s, like people or studios were really interested in like returning to properties from the 70s, but like doing them kind of similar to the 70s version. Like you had Godfather 3, and then you had Jaws: The Revenge, which we've covered on this show.
The classic, yes.
Which also has flashbacks, or a character has flashbacks that she couldn't have had.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah.
And this, I mean, obviously Rocky did have the flashbacks, but to scenes that we've never seen before. It's kind of a similar thing. And that's pretty interesting. This movie even kind of looks like Jaws: The Revenge. It has like, obviously it's from the same era. It's like probably the same film
got like
stock or
little
something.
Dark bluish. Yeah, it's definitely got a lighting style, and it's definitely blue. And I think this is a thing about this part of the early 90s. It's got like everything had like a slight blue tint to it.
It's kind of muted too. It's like very like drab looking.
Yeah, it's hard to tell when they're just aping the 70s and when they're just a product of their era. And I think this is a combination of both.
I think at this point, when they're shooting at night, they're trying to make their like key lights look like moonlight. They're maybe making them look even bluer.
It's all the dark scenes that look blue in this, and I think that's kind of just I think they kind of go overboard a little bit with that. But that's definitely, you remember when the guy in Jaws: The Revenge gets eaten by the shark at night? And it looks just like this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
Well, there is one thing we haven't talked about yet. It's really like taking a syringe and trying to inject hip hop into this. This whole.
And how awesome it was! Yeah, sweet hip hop, inject it right into my veins.
Yeah.
MC Hammer, let's get it on.
Cool, but like also like we lost the Tony character and like our other like
our only black character.
Our only black character like who's in this movie is like a caricature and evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all about hip hop. So it makes perfect sense.
You guys are making me remember Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
Ninja,
and
go
how
Ninja, go.
That's
Go
in
Ninja.
a bar, not in a bar, in a club, and the wall breaks in that one too, and they're in the streets and it becomes a street fight.
Yep.
I wonder if these exist in the same world.
I wonder why Vanilla Ice wasn't in this movie.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait, it wasn't his time yet, was it? He was still
No,
he was
he
still
was
a break
just
dancer in
burgeoning,
Miami or whatever.
You know what's funny? I just thought of another thing. This is 1990. The kid Rocky Jr. was wearing a bat, like the iconic Batman
that's
t-shirt.
another
That's
National
right. Movie
Lampoon
that came
thing.
just right out like
Yes.
89.
It was like practically. It must have been in the theaters when they were shooting this. That's insane that they have that. And how many of you guys had that iconic Batman t-shirt?
I know I did.
I did it.
Did everyone in this room
I
have
did
that?
have that.
Like, did everyone in the world have that t-shirt?
I think so.
Yeah.
My
it was
family was against the color black for young children, so I had to get the white T-shirt with that logo on.
wow.
What is
I feel like your family should have made an exception for that t-shirt.
what is the
I'm gonna order it tonight just to make a point
I
to
actually
them.
like. It's
Hey,
weird.
Mom.
Before you said that, I was just like, I should get that t-shirt again. I don't wear t-shirts with logos and shit on them. I wear plain black t-shirts all the time. But that's one I'd make an exception for.
By the way, Tommy Gunn in the World Championship fight loses the trunks. He goes without the.
Oh yeah, why? I wonder.
Well,
because he's
That's
no
another
longer. Yeah,
betrayal.
that's right.
the thing,
Yeah.
you know.
no?
I did.
I like how Paulie's cheering for Union Kane in this fight. It's like, no, bum out, but Rocky still loves him, and he's just like, go get him.
He's the
You
most
can do it,
sane
Tommy.
one. He's seeing like actually
He's
everybody
like, he's a
except
scumbag.
Rock.
I hope he dies.
Yeah.
I also thought that Tommy Gunn was going to lose this fight and that he should have lost, and that like his anger from losing would like he's so enraged that he just goes to find Rocky immediately right then, and like that's kind of what spurs
that would have
fight
made
to happen.
more sense to the Rocky character, because Rocky was trying to get him through the fights the way Mickey was. Remember, Mickey in the third one tells him he's kind of protecting him, making sure he doesn't lose.
Yeah,
and that would have made sense. But
does that also undermine all the time Rocky put in to train him? Because
because
him
he
winning the fight,
loses
Rocky,
him.
yeah, but he loses him when he's already a finished product, you know, like
Paulie's not in the corner.
Yeah, well, that's probably what it is. But like George Washington Duke could have never made him into this fighter. Rocky made him into a champion, and then everyone else took all the credit. So it's kind of like Rocky gets to have his victory in the ring here vicariously through this guy who he taught everything he knows.
So yeah, that's true. But also the common person like is aware of that, which is kind of ridiculous. Like the entire crowd is like cheering for Rocky and booing him
Rocky.
because they know Rocky trained him. Like,
And by
really?
the way, we can talk a little bit about the press in this. The press calls him.
What kind of media is this? This is not objective media.
That guy's mad. He like wants to fight about it. He's like, I will not let you off the hook. Rocky trained you. Why'd you betray Rocky?
You're just his puppet, and there's that caricature in the newspaper.
There's no legitimate like journalistic question asked in any of these press conferences.
World of this story,
they're all just
though,
instigating.
In the world of this story, though, is Rocky not the most famous man in the world at this point? Like,
Maybe,
he ended
the Cold War.
Less than a year ago, he ended the Cold War by winning a boxing match against an invincible opponent.
And what a speech he gave. Wild brain damage, by the way.
Wild brain damage. And this is after the fact that he's already one of the biggest underdog victors in the history of all of boxing. And like he's like the best story. And if this actually happened in real life, it would throw like the Miracle on Ice and Bob Beamon, and just forget about any amazing, can't believe it's true victory. Rocky's the total of his boxing career would be the most amazing thing that ever happened to anybody. We would all he'd be on a dollar bill.
I was going to say,
like,
put him on
I know
the
it's
Mount
usually presidents,
Rushmore.
but we're making it Rocky now.
Well, he'd be like as famous as Tom Brady. Tom Brady's like
he would.
Tom Brady did not end the Cold War, my
He'd
friend.
be way more famous than Tom Brady. You'd be a saint. And, I mean, and so now, like, yeah, people do care if he's training a young fighter because this is his second act, you know. So I guess I kind of buy that in the world of the ridiculous.
You've convinced me, my friend.
I see that.
What I don't buy is that he'd ever be poor, because I feel like there would be some way to merchandise being the most famous man on the planet. You know?
Yeah, even like you could advertise for hemorrhoid cream or something.
Exactly.
What is his drawing? His drawing of the
it's not like
French,
Doug Flutie
the
can
French teacher with the big titties in the beginning is way better than this new drawing.
Oh, I thought you were saying that drawing's in the scene. And I was like,
but
oh,
seriously,
man, I
what
wanna
is
see
that drawing? It's two faces. One's Rocky. Who's the other guy?
I couldn't tell. It was so faded.
I thought it was Rocky and the Sun together.
Yeah, I thought that too. But
that was horrible.
Maybe he's not good at self-portraiture.
But I feel like Rocky like can't even see it.
I like how dismissive he is of everything the kid does too. It's like this kid is begging for attention, and Rocky's like, you know, I know 7 times in the past I said, like, you know, my kid being born was the best thing in my life, but he's kind of boring now. I don't know. He's going through a phase of like, I don't know. He's mid-teens, man. I'm not into it.
And then his wife sends him drinking.
Yeah. It's like, I go out to the bar and celebrate. Your kid doesn't need you that much.
One thing I did like about this movie is that I guess, having not seen it, like this Rocky, the way he looks now, this Stallone, is the Stallone from Demolition Man and from Cliffhanger. He looks exactly like that. So it's like I'm seeing the Stallone that I know and love, and now he's in a Rocky movie.
Not that pretty boy.
Yeah.
Here's the press conference. Speaking of,
where do the names in this movie rank? Where do Tommy Gunn and Union Kane rank in the all-time Rocky boxing?
I'm into Tommy Gunn. They even put a AK-47 rifle on the back of the
Tommy the Machine Gun.
Tommy the Machine
Oh,
Gun.
that's right,
Yeah.
Machine Gun.
Yeah, they call him the Machine.
Like the name Tommy Gunn, like to hear it, like it sounds like a made-up name. It sounds stupid, but in this movie they play it pretty well. That it's
Kinda
like,
works.
yeah, it kind of does work. Yeah. And then Union Kane, weird, but it rolls off the tongue. It feels good.
Yeah, yeah.
Like Union
but I mean,
is
like,
not a name.
Where they started at was Rocky Balboa and Apollo Creed.
Yeah.
Apollo Creed is a pretty fantastic name.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, it's hard to top. I mean, and Clubber Lang is another great one. So, I mean,
And Ivan Drago is cool too.
They've done a nice job with names. They get gradually over the top, but you know,
The next one's Mason the Line Dixon.
Mason the Line Dixon.
Did you
which
guys-
is preposterous.
Yeah,
but,
it's
you know,
preposterous. Exactly.
Did you guys take like foreign language in high school?
Yeah.
So I used to cut up a lot in foreign language.
You don't say. Can you pun in which foreign language did you take?
I took French in high school and Spanish in college.
I did the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. So in high school in French, I like hated that I went there, and it was really shitty of me. It was like it showed poor character, to be honest. Like how much I hated going to French class because it was literally just that like the rest of school was easier for me, and like learning another language was like not in my skill set, and so I was just kind of mad about it. But besides that,
did you have to pick a name?
Yeah. So we had to pick a name when we got to high school.
I hope we had the same name.
Okay, no.
You go first.
This is the best. I knew we had to do the whole picking the name thing, and we did that. But I told the French teacher that my name, like, although it said my name was Colin, that like the name I went by at school and what everyone called me and like what everyone had called me for years was Apollo.
Did she buy it?
Not only did she believe it, like a few weeks into French class, she called my mom to complain about my behavior. And said, like,
your son
Apollo's been doing this and that in class. He just and my mom was like, what are you talking about?
You got the wrong number.
Yeah. And she was so mad. She came to me, did you tell your French teacher that your name was Apollo? Why did you do that?
That's a wonderful and harmless lie. What was your actual name?
Oh, my French name was Raoul, I think.
Raoul's a good one. Matt?
Mine was Guy.
Nice. Guy is excellent. They made me be Henri. I wanted to be Crystal Ball because I thought it sounded like Crystal Ball. and they made me be Henri because they were like, no, it's got to be your normal name. And I was like, there's no Harris in French. And they said, well, you'll just be Henri then. Arbi, did you take French and have to have a fake name?
No, I took Spanish and I did not have a fake name.
They didn't make you pick a fake Spanish name?
No.
That is so annoying. I'm sad.
I would have
for
gone
you.
with Juan Carlos.
Yes. Well, I got to say, I think Guy wins.
Guy.
Yeah, that's definitely the finest of all French names.
I saw it and I was like, Guy, I'll take it. And they're like, well, it's pronounced Guy. I was like, oh, I'll definitely take it.
Double down.
Yeah, it's funny you're talking about like it's just a poor sign of your character that you cut up in French class. And I was thinking like, not only did I cut up in French class for that exact same reason because I struggled. Yeah, I actually I did the same thing in algebra where everyone in the class and the teacher hated me because I could not take it seriously because I sucked so bad at it. And I actually got kicked out of I didn't get kicked out of my chemistry class, but I hated chemistry so much and was so disruptive that I started skipping class and hanging out in a study hall during the class. And then when I came back, the chemistry teacher was like, I'll pass you for the year with a C- if you just spend the rest of the class in the study hall. Oh, wow. This is like half a year I didn't have to take chemistry and he passed me just so I wouldn't have to be in the class.
I'm pretty sure that's quid pro quo.
Yeah, exactly. It was definitely a quid pro quo. So I think in terms of low character, I think I might have had you beat there.
Oh, nice.
By the way, we're watching the last scenes here, and what puts Rocky, what instigates him to fight, that's how much he loves Paulie, is seeing Paulie bleed from the lip.
Nobody hits the man who's ruined my life on several occasions.
Exactly. That's
I
one of
will
the worst
always
things.
bail this man out.
This is how good of a human being Rocky is that anybody else, even like Paulie's his best friend and his brother-in-law and he loves him. But if that was my best friend and brother-in-law who I loved and some guy socked him in the face after all the shit he's done, I would have been like, yeah,
I would have helped him up.
Yeah, that's the most. Let me help you clean up. Here's
like,
a napkin.
Yeah, I would have been like, yeah, here, clean yourself up. I hope he doesn't hit you again one or two more times.
You know the guy who follows George Washington Duke around, the white guy?
Yeah.
He reminds me of that guy right there. He reminds me of in wrestling, WWF. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
Paul Bearer?
What's it?
No, it's not Paul Bearer.
Paul Bearer? Yeah, I think that's
the
it.
Undertaker's guy who holds the urn?
I think that's
Doesn't
it. Yeah,
look like him.
He's always
does
wearing
kinda
a
look like him.
tuxedo, I think.
Yeah,
I don't think he looks like him so much, but he definitely has like the sort of
The aura.
lurking in the background. Yeah, and he is kind of just like a hype man
Wearing a tuxedo.
for George Washington Duke, who's usually wearing a tuxedo. I'm glad you brought up WWE because this is my biggest complaint with this street brawl is that it is shot and choreographed and just basically feels like a W. You know how they do like the behind the scenes things where they're like in the tunnel and the guy comes out of the locker room and another guy confronts him and they like throw each other through a table, and sometimes they run into another place and everyone follows them around, and it's got that vibe of this sort of improv random bullshit. Also, I feel like they're trying to do the gritty Philadelphia of Rocky 1, but this alley is such a production design.
Oh my god!
Soundstage alley. Yeah, it's just very much.
They missed the streets for sure by a mile as far as getting it right.
Yeah,
this should have been Rowdy Roddy Piper, and like they have a wrestling match essentially. In like, I know that's similar to They Live, but like this guy even looks like Rowdy Roddy Piper.
He does.
Yeah. You knocked his ass out. Do not turn around and walk away.
Oh yeah,
don't
he's
do
like
it.
screaming "I love you."
And
at
how
him.
confident is Rocky to think that's it and then walk away?
Yeah, but
all the nights we spooned together when it was too late for us to get home from the gym.
But also their relationship and his anger here, like, it doesn't even play for me because he didn't want a part of Tommy Gunn at all for so long in this movie. You know, he kept like turning him away, and then all of a sudden he was like in love with him. You know?
And all the scenes where they interact, he's playing up the brain damage thing really hard and like trying to do the pseudo philosophy of Mickey character that they made up for this movie. And it's like, what is that relationship?
The whole thing is a little forced. I mean, that's just the whole problem with this movie is they had a lot of good ideas, and I don't think they really 100% committed to. They needed to commit to less of them and really execute them better, and it just felt really forced. Nothing feels organic.
Oh, again, John G. Alvinson, he loves trains in the background. It like, remember in Rocky 1, like every scene had a train in the background. It just adds production value. Yeah.
And it's also a sexual metaphor.
Yes.
There's a lot of good one-liners here. I didn't hear a bell.
My ring is outside or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think the fight should have started because Paulie got punched. I think it should have been like Tommy Gunn loses his cool and just attacks him, and that makes Rocky have to fight him.
Yeah, they go flying out the glass window
into
the
this
street.
With the sped up stuff, all this editing with these flashes. This is very Mad Maxy. This I got George Miller vibes a lot from this.
Yeah,
There's the elevated train.
It's interesting. It's different. Like, but yeah, that's like both why it's good and why it's bad.
The snap zooms and the.
It's like, yeah, this is good and interesting and different, but
here
like
comes the
also
blood shot.
We expected.
You know what? I think he should have said something about Adrian, to prompt the fight. He should have been like,
right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that?
Her cooking isn't even that good, and then Rocky's like, nobody talks about Adrian's cooking.
But that's a good throwback to Mr. T. He goes after her hardcore.
She couldn't even sell me a turtle.
No, like I think the best choice would have been like Tommy Gunn just like loses his cool and just strikes
burns down the gym.
But also,
and they fight in the silhouette of a fire.
Flames. Oh, that's cool. Wow. Yeah.
What? And my other thing is like,
That's
why
good.
is like, I get that the press and the media has always played up Rocky's role in Tommy Gunn's ascent, and he's got a legitimate gripe. He's the one doing the fighting, you know. But like, and I know that Duke stokes the fire of that, but his animosity towards Rocky at the end here doesn't make any, like, he's gone from being this guy's pupil and friend and almost came to Christmas a few days ago to now he's like, I'm going to murder you in an alley if I can, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's what we've been talking about. They didn't build the character properly.
Yeah.
The turn is just too soon.
I still think it's more confusing that the priest is really into this, but you have a strong point.
Oh,
kick his ass.
The priest sees good and evil very quickly, my friend.
There's Rocky with the,
the
Mortal
leg sweep?
Kombat
Yeah.
low leg sweep.
A couple of times.
Like, when
by
did
the
he
way.
learn that? When did, like, this is a guy who, you know, was
He
a
grew up in the
notoriously
streets,
immobile
though.
boxer, and now he's doing fucking ninja leg sweeps.
Yeah, and like all we got was that one line when he's talking to the kid is like, if you want to grow up on these streets, you got to be street smart. And like, I used to be a street brawler, and like there are two lines. And like now, okay, so now he's like expert at
And I
like
trained with a guy named Liu Kang. He taught me his leg sweep. And also how to shoot fireballs out of my fist, but I don't use that one too much because it's not too good.
By the way, the sue me for what? I think I repeated that 97 times after I saw this movie as a kid.
Because sue me was such a big line around this time.
Yeah,
do you remember?
so sue me.
So sue me, yeah.
Yeah.
It
Touch
goes
me now,
hand in
sue.
hand with like, it's the 90s, you know, like everyone was saying that shit.
touch me now, Sue. Touch me now, Sue. Why does he?
Oh, that's a huge.
Why is he
throwdown.
like
It was a suplex.
so over the top with like being this Don King metaphor? Touch me now, soup. Like he's like, why is he sassy like
it's
that?
a bit too stereotypical.
Yeah, it's too much.
They definitely couldn't get away with that now in 2022.
Also,
it makes me hate that Tony's not in the movie because like
You really like Tony. I think you mentioned
Yeah, I
him
think you
7
can't
times.
bring
he's
up
my
Tony.
favorite character.
I don't know.
He's really good.
I feel like also both these guys their hands would be broken by now.
Yes. Oh, and their faces.
Well, their hands especially though. I mean, that's why they wear the gloves in the ring because your hands they got thousands of tiny little bones that are very fragile. You can't punch a human skull this hard, this often without breaking your fucking hands.
I'm surprised neither one has passed out by now. Go
If
ahead.
the Rocky movies have taught us anything, it's that we could look past that stuff.
Yes, if the Rocky movies have taught us anything, is that the people who make the Rocky movies don't know a lot about boxing.
Like biology doesn't work the same in this
Yeah.
world. It's like more like it.
By the way, I'm pretty sure Tommy Gunn is wearing regular sneakers and Stallone is wearing high heel boots.
Oh yeah, you know it. I mean, Tommy Gunn's 6'2". Tommy Morrison, I should say, is 6'2", and was like, 220 or something like that. Like he was fighting over 200 pounds. So this is a significantly bigger person than Stallone was at his biggest. So every shot that they're in that they look like they're the same height. Stallone probably has high heels, like the Prince high heels, and probably lifts inside of those.
More reason Rocky should be on a dollar bill or
God
something.
damn, I love that part. And he's like, God damn.
Only in America.
Yeah. Which
I
is
don't
like
even understand that line in conjunction with this. Only in America, a
Only in-
5'9", 50-year-old could beat
Yeah,
the heavyweight champion of the world
champion of the world in an alley.
in an alley.
and gain nothing for it except for possibly life-threatening brain damage.
Yeah. But there's
posterity.
there's a screaming happy crowd.
Yeah. And it was all caught on camera, so the world will know.
Yeah, and therefore his guy's ruined, and he can't find him another fight ever.
Yeah, exactly. He did kind of win this one. I wonder if because I can't remember how they treat this in Rocky Balboa, because I know they talk a lot about his previous fights in Rocky Balboa and they show clips from the previous fights, and I'll be interested to see if the news footage from Rocky 5 makes it into Rocky's fight highlights, because it is one of the crowning achievements of his career apparently.
I believe so.
Where is it going from here though? Because this looks like the beginning of like a street riot. Like, are they going to go looting now?
Or street party. Well, in Philly, it's always going to be a street riot. So
It looks
yeah,
like
they're going to probably
go
flip
looting,
a car,
and they're endorsed by a priest.
They are going to flip a car and light it on fire. That's
Yes.
what they're all like.
It's Philly.
That's the celebration. That's
They've
a
been
traditional.
blessed by the Catholic Church.
They
to do
call
this.
it the Philly Parade. You
Got
flip
it.
a car and you light it on fire.
Got it. Yep.
I like this final scene with him and his son going up the steps. I like that it ends here. I wish Adrian was there.
I hate that he's wearing the costume with the high heels and the hat again, though. Like, it's just so.
That's just a look. That's his thing.
Well, Adrian should have been waiting there with ice pops for them. Like, good job, guys.
What about Paulie? He
I like it, but
yeah,
I also
he should have been there too.
I also like that he gets up these iconic steps and then they're not actually there to run up the steps. They're in there to go to the art museum, and he's like, "Oh, I never even knew there's an art museum." It's like
That's
it's
pretty
a
funny.
funny
That's
button.
another commentary of how dumb Rocky is. Like, all these years he's been running up, has no idea it's a museum.
Not dumb. He just lacks culture and brain cells.
Yeah, the kid at somewhere between 10 and 16 is way smarter than him already.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem too brain damaged in this scene, by the way.
Yeah, he makes the joke about the
It
wearing
changes.
the gloves and earring, which I think is funny.
Oh, they're all chummy now, back to being regular father and son.
You know what? You know what's the most disappointing thing for me right now? That we have this thing on mute, so we will not get to listen to Elton John sing "Measure of a Man."
Measure of a Man.
Last time.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Measure of a Man is not Elton John's best song.
What is Elton John's best song, Colin? Don't say
I-
Crocodile Rock either. Fuck. Matt, what's Elton
You know
John?
what I wanted to say.
Candle in the Wind. It's beautiful.
RV, what's Elton John's best song?
I don't know. I like this song.
Colin?
I was getting ready to say I was always partial to Crocodile Rock until
my
you
God.
were like,
Do you want to know something?
Daniel, maybe?
Okay, fine. Yeah, Daniel, okay, you're all wrong.
I love Tiny Dancer.
Hey, listen,
Tiny
those were
Dancer.
those were good answers except for Crocodile Rock. You're all wrong. It's Take Me to the Pilot. It's awesome. Greatest song ever.
You know what? I grew up in such a Billy Joel house that like I was almost forbidden to listen to Elton John. It was like, fuck Elton John.
You know what?
That was the vibe that my parents gave.
I wasn't aware that there was a rivalry. I thought Billy.
Yeah, I didn't know that you couldn't
I
like
thought
both
they were
of them.
like
you
together.
can like both of them.
Yeah.
But
I
I
mean,
think
I think I grew up in more of an Elton John or a Billy Joel environment as well. It's from probably the New England thing. It's,
well,
but-
I'm from the town like where Billy Joel is from, so everyone is like.
so
jerking off
they
to
will
Billy
create
Joel.
a rivalry with that foreigner Elton John.
I would see that. I would see like that as like a rivalry with like Springsteen then, because Springsteen's Jersey and you're Long Island. Like that's more of a
Yeah,
that's more of
Bruce
a threat.
Springsteen wasn't taken very lightly in my house, also.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Oh, I see. I would have thought that it would be like, oh, we're a Billy Joel house, but also Springsteen's kind of cool because he's just from over there.
no. I would
Jersey-
say the
Oh,
proximity.
wow.
I would say the proximity makes it
Invites
worse.
more animosity.
It's like Bayside and
Interesting,
Valley
interesting,
are
interesting.
bigger rivals.
Okay, Matt, best Billy Joel song.
Yeah.
Ooh, I have a lot of favorites from different eras. I could go on.
I kind of love that you have a lot of favorites.
You know what I love about Billy Joel, and this is like a personal thing for me, is I love instead of saying Piano Man, saying it like it's Piano Man.
Sing us a song. You're the piano man.
Sing us a song, Piano Man. Sing us a
Arbi,
song tonight.
Arbi, you got a favorite Billy Joel song?
I'm a huge Billy Joel fan, and Goodbye Saigon just came to my mind.
Colin.
That's a deep one.
I used to really like You May Be Right, but then I realized like it kind of
You may be crazy.
yeah, exactly. Then I kind of realized like he talks about drunk driving in it, and that's bad.
Yeah, but he's saying that was probably a bad idea.
Yeah.
I think overall.
Yeah, especially now, he would say that probably.
Scenes from an Italian restaurant.
That one's really good. I like
Yeah.
that one a lot. What's
Always a Woman? That's a good one.
Always a Woman.
what's
is a great one.
Longest Time.
for the longest time? That's my
pretty,
favorite.
Yeah,
one.
Longest
That's my
Time's a
favorite
pretty good one too. It's like
Yeah.
his doo-wop, bring back doo-wop for some reason.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my
we
favorite
didn't
one.
need
Uptown
it.
Girl has a little bit
Uptown
of that.
Girl.
He's like
Uptown
style,
Girl.
too.
Uptown Girl slaps.
I just keep on remembering the Simpsons episode though, where he joins the hippie commune. It's like late. It's like
Yes.
like past the Simpsons prime, but he joins a hippie commune.
I know
and
that
they want
one.
to play folk songs, but he insists their anthem is Uptown Girl. And then at the end, when he's saying goodbye to them, he's like slowly singing it, Uptown Girl.
Uptown Girl's good. That's a good
I
song.
like in Step Brothers when there's like the wedding band or whatever, the Catalina wine mixer band, but they only play 80s Joel. Like the worst. Play Piano Man. He's like, get the fuck out. Yeah, Rocky 5, guys. Oh my god.
We just saw a montage of old pictures, which leads me to believe he thought this was it. He wasn't going to go there again, but
Yep, he really did. He thought, I think that this was billed as like the last Rocky. Oh, She's Got Away. I like that one too. That's a
She's
random.
got a way
She's got a way
about her.
Okay, should we wrap this one up since the movie's over?
Yeah, let's rank this shit.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I haven't gone first in a while. And I don't have my other scores in front of me. Let's see if I can do that.
Find my other scores.
So yeah, this is a movie called Rocky
It
5.
sure is.
And I did not like it. I mean, it didn't stray far enough that it's like it ruined the series or anything for me, but I do feel like it was a misstep. I think personally that this movie should have escalated from Rocky 4. Rocky could have fought a martial arts, like a Bruce Lee-ish type character.
Van
or like-
Damme.
Who?
A robot,
Van Damme.
an
Van
alien,
Damme.
a Frenchman, or a Belgian.
Schwarzenegger. Like I would have loved to see him.
Oh,
fight
that would have been
Schwarzenegger.
amazing.
Everyone wanted to see that.
But he already fought a giant blonde foreigner in the last one, so that would
I also
definitely
feel
back
like
in
they
the
didn't have a budget.
Yeah, it did feel cheap, but I think that was intentional. I think they were kind of going
Get
for
back to
that.
the roots.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie corny, like definitely the corniest, most poorly written one. In hindsight, or like like we said, on paper, this movie feels like it was it was a lot of good ideas done poorly, and I don't know if I'd give this a license to watch. Even I don't know if I'd go. I don't know if I want to watch this ever again. But like it wasn't that bad that I could say this is like, I don't know. I guess it is pretty bad. I don't know. God, I don't remember what my scores were. I feel like this is like a 4. This is a 4 Timothy Dolphins for me.
Yeah. Okay. Should I jump in?
Yes.
I'll jump in. I agree with what Matt said. The thing is, we have a problem in that we have watched Jaws and The Exorcist, which are 2 franchises that have some really great movies, or at least one really great movie, and then some interesting, mediocre things, and then some real turds. And this isn't a turd like those movies. Like this isn't as bad as the bad movies in other franchises. So,
oh yeah, I feel like some of the movies in the other franchises are like, they're not turds, they're like tangents or something.
Yeah,
they're like.
Yeah, or taints, if you will.
Yeah.
Turds or taints. Yeah.
Turds, taints. They're both. They smell the same.
My bad. I'm sorry I interrupted.
But anyways, yeah. So this was one that like I knew going into this. I think I've been saying from the beginning when we started this that this is the worst movie in the Rocky franchise.
You were right.
I stand by that, and I was willing to be proven wrong when I started watching this. I was like, maybe, who knows? Maybe it'll be good. It isn't. It's bad. It's the worst movie in the Rocky franchise. That low expectation though made it kind of watchable for me. I did like the elements of it that the stylistic ways they got back to Rocky 1, if not how they executed it. They did it in a very heavy-handed way and they didn't pull it off. But I like the inspiration of it. I thought Tommy Morrison was a competent actor for such a large part for a non-actor. I thought Sage Stallone was excellent, and Talia Shire was good, and I thought Sly was got a little simple Jackie, but in general was the better version of Rocky. I like the slower version of Rocky. And, so it was not successful. It was not good. It's a dumb movie full of dumb things, but I did enjoy a lot of parts of it. And it wasn't the incredible disappointment that I was expecting. So I probably give it a way too generous 5 Timothy Dolphins.
Wow. I'm going to interject real quick and say I think Talia Shire sucks in this movie. I think
really?
Yeah.
It's probably one of the movies where she's given the least to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's so like over the top, everything. She's like, he's retired, everything is
That's what she is in all these movies.
Yeah.
That's her character.
Also,
Adrian is like so quiet and shy in the first one, and then when she comes out of her shell, she can't stop screaming everything.
But I thought her motivation was she seriously thought that if he fought again, he would be
die.
a
That's what the
vegetable.
doctor said,
Yeah, and that's what Rocky 2 should have been. But
Arbi.
I think it's funny that you said that like she was given the least to do, because she's definitely given more lines and scenes than some of the other Rocky movies.
4, because I feel like she's usually the catalyst of everything he does in the other movies. I mean, maybe not the second one because she's in a coma for half of it, but but she's still sort of.
I would have liked to see that too in this movie, like
her in a coma again.
No, in the fight scene at the end, like he's on the ground or something, and like he sees Mickey, but then like he wakes, like the Mickey fades away, and what he's actually looking at is Adrian's face.
Yeah.
And
Don't you think his actual wife should be more powerful than the hallucination?
She has been in all the
his-
movies. Like
Yeah.
that would have been a nice callback for her to
Yeah.
be like, "Go get him, go for it." That's the tagline. of the
Adrian
movie.
loves you.
Did you guys read anything about they might have killed him off at the end of this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
They wrote it,
yeah.
Apparently that was the script. Yeah.
and the studio demanded that they keep him alive.
Which is
And
thank
they
God
got
for
Creed 1 and 2 out of
Thank
it.
God for studio interference, because that's just dumb. And he said it. He said it pretty eloquently. He explained it. He was like, when they said, "Hey, you can't kill Rocky off," he was like, "Yeah, it felt like a betrayal of the character, because he's all about overcoming adversity, and to have him die in an alley in a street fight just felt like the wrong ending for him."
yeah.
Especially the ending of this movie.
Right. Yes.
Because there is nothing then. Why,
Yeah.
Can you imagine if this ended with that, and then Rocky Balboa had to be like, "It was all a dream"?
Yeah.
Well,
And actually, Adrian died after being in a coma for several decades.
Adrian coma dream theory holds up.
I'll get into this more of Rocky Balboa, but I feel like that movie misses the boat in like having it be a father-son, like his son becoming the next Rocky, that he like trains him or whatever, and that's what Rocky 6 could have been about. His son is in the movie, I remember, but That's not the storyline.
His son does not have a boxer's body. In that
yeah.
Yeah, but having like we already said we don't know exactly why Tommy Gunn is so mad enough to like keep coming and try to fight him. Like we kind of do, but it's not really that's like something that lacks about the movie.
Because Tommy Gunn hates his father.
Yeah.
No, don't forget the
psychology.
press. The press is in his ear that you're a fake champion.
Yeah, but Tommy Gunn also hates his father, and Rocky becomes a father figure. So he hates Rocky.
They could have built that, but
Right.
they
They did
didn't.
not.
They did
But
not.
like, let's
Refused.
say, okay, but let's say that character murders our hero in the end of in an alley in the end of the movie.
And my question is, if he does that, does he retain the title belt?
Of course, he retains the title.
Okay, all right.
They just have to do the.
Oh,
fights
it would have been
in prison.
funny if Rocky reaches into the convertible Cadillac, takes the belt,
Throws it over his shoulder,
Yeah,
walks off
buddy.
into the sunset.
That would have been cool.
That would have actually, you know what? You want to know what the difference between a great movie and a shitty movie is?
That right there.
That right there. That would bump this up to at least a 7 Timothy Dolphins for me.
Stallone, please hire me for your next writing project.
Seriously. Oh, man. That would have nailed it. All right.
Arby, let's get your score.
While you were thinking about yours, I was on the same page. I'm giving it 4 Timothy Daltons.
And you know what? I'm in between a 4 and a 5. It's crazy.
Not do 4.5.
Not do 4.5. Why? I want to do a halfer. This movie's just. I've already said like basically everything I want to say about it, and I don't like being I don't like saying mean things and like saying stuff is
Someone
bad.
keeps jiggling their mic. Stop it. Sorry.
Okay.
Start that sentence over.
I don't like being mean or saying stuff is bad.
Because that's my corner. You will stay off it. I'm not making puns.
Yeah. So we'll just leave it at that.
Good analysis. I don't say mean things, so I'm done.
What is this mean thing you want to say? Now I'm curious.
I don't know, that maybe this movie kind of sucks.
I think the 4 and the 5 have said that. Now it's your number we need to hear.
I think that's been the subtext of your entire show here so far.
Okay, good.
If you need to give it a 3, I don't think anyone's going to get mad.
I'm just trying to pick between 4 and 5. I'm like, I'm going to say 4. I'm going to give it a 4 Timothy Dolphins.
Wow. What a phenomenal, fun ride we've had.
That was great, guys.
Arby, thank you so much for coming back.
Oh, thank you so much for
Embracing
having me.
The cold. Are you guys freezing? I'm freezing.
No, I'm so into this conversation. I'm heated up.
Oh,
I'm
awesome.
all right. I'm
Your heart's on fire. you
That's
might say.
right. Ba-dum-bum.
It's on fire.
I just kind of have to pee.
All right. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go.
Yeah, I got to go to the bathroom and take a measure of the man.
How could you plan that in advance?
Oh.
No, it just came to me.
Okay, good.
This is a fire episode.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Wait, but I'm not going in the bathroom with you. Thank you so much for listening. And please remember to rate, review, and subscribe if you like listening to us talk about your favorite movie franchises. Thank you once again to our guest, Arbi Derzakharian. And as always, thank you to Chris Morocco for banging out the Rocky remix for this series. As some of you may know, we have a Patreon that you can check out and subscribe to for just $1 a month over at www.patreon.com/L2W. That's www.patreon.com/L2W. The letter L, the number 2, the letter W. Help support us by joining. You get instant access to over 45 or 50 bonus shows that feature us covering non-franchise classics such as Cliffhanger, Mortal Kombat, the Star Trek Next Generation movies, Loaded Weapon 1, Showgirls, and most recently Creed. And again, that website to join is www.patreon.com/the letter L, the number 2, the letter W. License to Watch is a part of the Fandom Limb Podcast Network, so please be sure to check out some of their other awesome shows. And be sure to tune in for our final Rocky movie, Rocky Balboa.